Welcome to day 3 of the World Team Chess Championship here in Khanty-Masiysk, Russia, where the round is about to begin. Let's announce the leaders first and then focus on the clash of the day. In the open section there are 2 leaders. It is China and Poland. The Polish team is doing surprisingly well. China is the defending champion. They are the 2 leaders. And in the women's section, the sole leader is Russia. But the critical clash of the day is not between the leaders. It is Russia versus Ukraine, Ponomaryov versus Svidler on board 1.
So we are talking open section now, right? So as you can see, China, 2 wins over, well, the win versus India is particularly important. It wasn't all that easy for China, but yeah, so they are leading. Poland, yeah, India surprisingly has 0 points, right? So they've lost to Poland and they lost to China, both with 2.5. Turkey still is unbeaten, so this is another surprise of those 2 first rounds. And Ukraine, well, they have the same score as Turkey, but for Ukraine the biggest surprise would be, I would claim that they didn't win a single game yet. Ukrainians.
They drew all 8 games in previous rounds.
Basically, it's, well, China in the lead, and so is Poland. Russia is doing, well, I won't claim Russia is very happy with their surprise. They won 1 match, they drew 1 match, but they've played with 2 outsiders, so to speak, even though you do not call a team of Turkey, which is rated 25-80, a clear outsider. So
yes, if you see this cross table, Turkey is the team that drew with Ukraine, drew with Russia, so the Turkish team is doing very well. Norway has 2 points, but they almost tied the match against the United States, the Olympic champions. So today Norway and Turkey are facing each other, 2 young teams. And Belarus has 1 match point so far. It is the draw against Ukraine.
Right, so I think that's all. Yeah, Egypt yesterday, perhaps we have to mention, they managed to score the first win.
That's true. We should mention that even though the Egyptian team lost both matches, they scored an important draw against Nepomniachtchi, and yesterday they scored their first victory against Norway.
All right, and as for women's section, who are the ladies? I kind of forgotten.
Russia.
Russia. Yeah, not surprisingly.
They beat China in the first round, and that was a very important result, which could give them their first ever gold medal at the World Team Championship. Of course, it's too early to call them champions, but beating China was one of the biggest steps.
Yeah, and it has to be said, it has to be their closest rivals according to average rating. China and Georgia are not doing all that great in a tournament. So China is on 1 match point only. After losing to Russia, they made a draw against Ukraine, and Georgia has 2 draws.
So we see the players already focusing. The round is about to begin. In a few seconds we will see the handshake between the Ukrainian team and the Russian team. Who are the players today for these 2 teams?
Yeah, it's Svidler, Nepomniachtchi, and I guess yeah, it was Fedoseev. No, it was Fedoseev for Russia, right? And that was interesting to see all Russian team wearing suits and then Nepomniachtchi in a T-shirt. So that's breaking the dress code. Yeah, and it's Ponomaryov, Korobov, and who else we supposed to have it?
Ponomaryov, Korobov, Arashenko on board 3, and Kravtsev on board 4. So for Ukraine, it is Moiseyenko who is not playing today, and as for Russia,
it's European champion Matlakov is not playing.
Champion. He didn't have a very good game yesterday, therefore he is resting today.
Open sections pairing. It's India versus Belarus, so India desperately needs to start scoring to hope for a good result. But yeah, Belarusian team is not a weak team, by no means, 2600 average, so it won't be an easy task for Indians. United States versus China, that's another big clash, along with Ukraine and Russia. Egypt plays with Poland, and Turkey might get a positive score because they play with team of Norway, so they are favorites in this match.
They are favorites also by rating average and by the previous results, although I would say that Norway can surprise them.
Yeah,
and Ukraine, Russia is of course the match we already announced.
Yeah, and Poland might remain in the lead. They are facing Egypt, so they are favorites here. So women's section, India versus Ukraine. That's certainly an interesting match to follow.
That is a match that could decide a podium.
Right, then Russia versus Azerbaijan, China with Vietnam, Egypt against Georgia, and Poland, United States of America. So what do you think we should focus on in the women's section? Because as for the Open, it's more or less clear. It's Russia versus Ukraine. But for the women's section,
I think we should have a look at the match of the leaders, Russia versus Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan is a dangerous team, so just because the rating average is almost 200 rating points less, I think the games will be tougher. The Azerbaijan team always fights. So the men's team, the women's team of Azerbaijan, I think they are always dangerous opponents, even if they have lower rating. And also the China-Vietnam match is very interesting, as well as India, Ukraine, Poland, USA.
Yeah, so a lot,
basically,
really.
we should have a look at all the matches.
Right, so the round has been started and we can take a closer look on team compositions. Once again, yeah, we've announced Ukraine, Russia. Anyone else? Well, I'm surprised to see Atiban is still playing. So after 2 losses, he's probably a key player in this team of India. So even with 2 losses, they've decided to put him on the list.
I think it's nice that his federation trusts him so much that even after 2 bad games, they believe that he can come back and start winning. Adiban is, as you mentioned, a key player for India, so he has to come back, start playing better chess, because he's capable of upsetting world champions.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, no surprises in team of China, so they play with top 4 boards as they did in the previous rounds.
And they will play every round.
Most likely, that's a
prediction.
Fairly good chance for that. Yeah, and for United States, China's opponent, Alex Onishuk is not playing, so it's Sam Shankland on board 1, despite the fact that he lost yesterday. So it's Sam Shankland, Varujan Akobian, Ray Robson, and Jeffrey Chong.
Shall we start with the match of the day, Russia versus Ukraine?
Russia versus Ukraine. Yeah, we said, we've announced the players. So let me see if there is something interesting on the board.
We can go board by board. I think everybody wants to see Ponomaryov versus Swidler.
Ponomaryov versus Swidler is interesting. Nepomniachtchi against Korobov. This is a very principal one because I don't remember Ponomaryov and Swidler playing recently. So somehow Ruslan plays much less, and I don't know, probably he doesn't make it to tournaments where Peter Swidler plays. So Peter is playing the Grand Prix cycle, which Ruslan is not participating in. Anyway, so
but you mentioned that Ruslan beat Swidler in an event that was very important for becoming a world champion.
Yeah, right. So he has beaten Peter Swidler in Moscow in a semi-final of this successful world championship for Ponomaryov. It was 2002, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it was Swidler in the semi-final and then a dramatic match against Vasily Ivanchuk in the final. Right, and as I said, on board 2, Nepomniachtchi against Korobov, that's a principal one. I'm guessing Korobov has beaten Nepomniachtchi in one of the recent Europeans with the black pieces, and then Nepo won with black in the last Olympiad, that's I'm sure. The match which Russia dramatically lost after all, so thanks to wins of Volokitin and Ponomaryov, both with the black pieces. Ukraine has won against Russia 2.5, 1.5 in Baku Olympiad.
Volokitin is not here, unfortunately for Ukraine, but Ponomaryov is. Do you think that they trust Ruslan to try to win now with the white pieces? This is his first game, by the way, with the white pieces, but having an opponent of the level of Peter Swidler is, of course, always very difficult.
Yeah, it was So we can see. For a moment, I thought it was Vasily Ivanchuk in the playing hall. I mean,
that would be
one of the arbiters. Yeah, that's just. Well, theoretically, it is possible. He was busy playing a rapid match versus David Navarre, but since the match is finished and Ivanchuk won this match, it was possible that he would join. Right. So. Something classical, at least Ray Lopez from those two, Ponomarev being at the white side. Castles, it's a clear hint that Pita is ready to play a marshal after c3 or anti-marshals after a4, h3. So d4 and only d4 was played. d6, rook e1, yeah. d6, no, then c3, bishop g4. Rook e1 is already there, yeah. And bishop e3. Blundering the pawn on e4. Yeah, well, I remember being naive and then thinking really why black can't take on e4. Obviously because of this bishop d5 move attacking both knights, where black can't really protect them. And then this tricky bishop h5 move.
What is the point of early bishop h5?
Yeah. I'm thinking, it's not that easy to tell. I mean, I know the point, but I don't know if h3 wouldn't happen anyway. After bishop h5, the point is that white, well, he can play knight d2, but it will be met with knight g4, and then black takes this bishop, and apparently it's fine for black.
And in case of h3, won't it be a transposition?
H3, it will be a transposition.
So
that's what I mean.
Tricky move,
yeah, that's what I mean. So I think the other thing is I'm not sure what's the main move.
Look at that, he doesn't play h3.
He doesn't play h3. Bishop h5.
And Svidler is a bit puzzled.
Bishop h5, and what was played? Because he made a move
Knight
very, very quickly. Knight bd2. Can it be that knight g4 is not all that great here? Because I said knight g4, now I understand that maybe bishop d5 is a bit problematic. Bishop d5, you want to play queen d7 perhaps?
d5.
No, d5.
Okay, so this is of course still theory. It was
still
just
theory
a moment
for Peter
of
Svidler.
recalling what Peter remembers. He was trying to remember all the lines. d5 immediately played after a few seconds of thinking, basically.
Wait, that's interesting. So not d5 here. But yeah, here you can't really play. Wait a second. Here with bishop on g4, you can't really play d5 because of this, or what, or this. Knight takes and then takes here. Knight is hanging on d5, so probably you are not getting the pawn back.
But with the
even
knight,
though it can be some compensation, yeah. But with the knight being on d2,
the knight on d5 is not hanging in this very same line. So if we can show the same position,
d5 now if you take, black can take. If you take d5, black similarly can simply take d5. And since you have no h3, there won't be any g4s. Yeah, and after this move d5, usually a lot of stuff is getting exchanged. I mean, now we have a board full of pieces, but since they're gonna start taking here in the center, it might as well be that Svidler knows it till, you know, almost till the end. I mean, like a lot of exchanges, and okay, let's see. So far, both players are in the book.
Why do you think Ruslan is thinking? Just trying to recall everything that he prepared.
Yeah, knight bd2, he did play very quickly, right? And then d5 comes, so it shouldn't be a surprising move, this d5. But yeah, it made Ponomarev think. That's interesting. Is there anything white can... No, I don't really see. I mean, takes, knight takes. Normally, I think by doing this, by taking those pawns, you only help black, so black gets two very nice centralized knights in the center. Even though sometimes some positions like that, especially if black takes, they can be slightly better for white. I don't know, but again, symmetrical structure, which always suggests that it's very, very close to a draw. Very well, to equality. Let's not call it a draw, but yeah.
There are often these moments during games where I wish there was a button that you push and you see the player's thoughts. Because I really wonder, what is Ruslan Ponomarev thinking about? This is a line that he went for as white. So he decided to go for this variation, and now he's thinking, why?
Yeah, that's a bit puzzling. Can it be that d5 is not the usual move here? I'm guessing.
It's Swidler's preparation, but it's not something that's played often.
Yeah, I'm guessing this is the main line. h3 takes d5, e5. I remember seeing something like that, right? Knight e4, then they go knight c3, and so on, so on. Right, knight bd2. Somewhat surprising move, let us say.
But it's the move that he played, so...
Maybe Black can do this.
By the way, let's just see quickly the results between these two teams, because it's very interesting. There are victories for both teams. The last one was in 2015 at the World Team Championship, a victory for Ukraine. In 2013, another World Team Championship that was a victory for Russia, and they drew in 2011. It seems that there was only one draw out of 7 matches, if I can calculate correctly those.
Yeah, right.
So this is always such a clash, fighting spirit.
That's always tense and always a principal match, of course.
Oh, by the way, now I've just realized that I see Gregor Shkayevsky in the playing hall, and I would have said that he's not here, because he didn't.
He's not on the list. I mean, he's not.
Initially he was, but I thought that he wouldn't come to support Poland because he is the main second of Vishy Anand, and Anand is going to play the Grand Chess Tour in a day, basically. So I thought that Anand would need Mr. Gajewski next to him, and therefore he was not able to come to khanty-masiysk. Maybe he will be supporting Anand through internet, and now he is here to help his national team, Poland.
Okay, so Ruslan is thinking, so just quickly are the boards. Nepomniachtchi against Korobov. It's a Najdorf with bishop g5, to which Anton Korobov replies with knight b to d7. One of the possible continuations, right? e7, e6, of course, being much more popular, but also a lot more studied, let's say, a lot more theory in this one, right? So after knight b d7, well, I mean, it's silly to say. In bishop g5 Najdorf, there is always a theory, and sometimes the span is like 30 moves. You have to know like 30 moves, otherwise you are simply not making it. I mean, that's the difference between those two positions on the board. Ponomarev can think and find some reaction over the board.
A logical, natural move.
Yeah. Over here in this Najdorf, what was played? Bishop c4, queen a5, queen d2, e6. By the way, there were some attempts to sacrifice on e6, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, bishop b3 was played. Here, if you don't know what to do, it's very, very tough. Recently, the recent game I remember in this bishop g5 Najdorf, not the same line, but it started as the same. It's Caruana versus Nakamura. I think it's a last round of recently finished tournament in Stavanger, the Norway chess, right, where Hikaru Nakamura happened to be not aware of theory, and all his tactical trickiness didn't help him.
Especially in the poison pawn variation, you can just lose without playing a single move, without the opponent playing a single move by himself. Don't you think that on board 2 both players look a bit like they have just rolled out of bed?
Yeah, well, it's very typical of Nepomniachtchi to look like this.
I think most players are night owls, and also if you take into account the time zones, it's still day 3. I don't know about them. Okay, Nepomniachtchi comes from Moscow.
From Moscow, so
I
it's
believe so
couple of hours difference.
2 hours difference.
Yeah.
And the same for Korobov, I think, or is that 3 hours?
I'm not sure.
Anyway, they probably just have this schedule every time they play a tournament that they stay up until late.
Yeah, it looks like he's a bit sleepy. Not the position, not that position suggests so. Right, and then it's a bit more boring on boards 3 and 4. In both of them, I'm guessing it was gioco piano, Italian. Ukraine being white on board 3, so it's Areshenko versus Vityugov. Areshenko had one gioco piano. I'm not sure if it was yesterday or the day before yesterday, but I can easily claim that it was a draw because Ukrainians made all draws. Okay, so A4 D6, C3 castles, H3 knight E7. No surprises so far. And the last move which was played is bishop to G5. Black probably has to play knight to G6. No surprises so far. I'm not sure why players are thinking.
It's puzzling both on board 1 and board 3. Also, Nepomniachtchi started thinking, I think this is a bit early.
Yeah, well, the reason might be, now I'm starting to remember Vityugov's repertoire, and he is known to play French, a Caro-Kann, and I remember some Taimanov Sicilians.
Yes, not really an E5 player.
Yeah, I'm not sure if possibly he has changed in recent years when I'm not following that closely, but yeah, it's not his, let's say, main opening. He
has even written a book about the French defense.
Yeah, absolutely, and a good one. And then Fedoseev against Kravtsev, more or less the same line. Yes, up to knight is on D2, so it's a bit different. Yeah, on board 3 it was bishop G5 at some point. Here it's knight on D2 and pawn on A4. Black, though, deviated at an early stage, making castle. Now on white's castle, well, some people just believe that D5 solves all the problems. So white therefore plays knight BD2. I'm not sure what's wrong with D5 here. I mean, all those tricky move orders, I was trying to understand once. It goes like this, and by the way, it started like two knights defense. Anyway, this position, it goes like this. You open the database, you press the reference, and you see like 5-6 moves, to each of them black has 5-6 replies, and once again, and so on and so on, and then
and many times it's a transposition.
Yeah, what do you do normally? You check what are the top guns playing, what are the moves the top guns are playing, and then you can find that Ivanchuk plays knight BD2 and some 2700 plays C3 and castle, and it's always a transposition. So you're getting confused. You are getting, yeah, it's very, very tough. It's basically more, strangely enough, more about understanding these positions, even though there are some precise move orders in that. But yeah, if you don't understand what you're doing, it doesn't make sense to try to memorize all those lines. Okay, and I'm guessing we've got eventually something original. At least I do not remember seeing this pawn on A5 here. D4, and early D4, and after C6, I'm guessing bishop D3. Ah, no, it's not here. Once again, so you see I'm getting confused. Okay. Early knight E7 again, because in many positions this bishop goes to B3 and later on to C2.
But
and
here
this
it
is
can go
kind of recent
D3.
idea to play an early D4, and then bishop moves to F1. And it's made possible because of black playing knight E7 at an early stage. Otherwise you can't simply play D4, so you really have to play rook E1, knight to F1, and so on, and only then you go D4. The way it is in the game, after knight E7 you can play knight D4, pawn is no longer hanging. After C6, by the way, black is ready to solve the tension in the center in the same way as Swidler did against Ponomarev. Black is apparently ready for d6, d5.
So that's why you move the bishop.
Therefore, bishop f1. Yeah, bishop d3 probably doesn't make all that much of a sense because of knight f4.
I was going to say that the bishop on b3 in this position is not that useful if you need to remove it, because if knight f4 is coming anyway, you want to solve the situation on the king side. At some point you will want to play g3 to chase the knight away from f4, king h2, g3, and then the bishop is more useful on f1.
So, well, bishop f1, bishop e6, and a4, a5. So, for future, taking some space on the queen side, and potentially, let's say, if the structure is changed this way, this is very useful to have a pawn on a5, so black's queen side somewhat less mobile, makes black's queen side somewhat less mobile. It doesn't look like this move is going to be played, to be honest. Okay, so far too early to speak of the chances. I'm guessing it will be very, very sharp on board 2.
Can we just quickly go back to board 1?
Ponomarev and Swidler, because they've exchanged a lot of pieces immediately. d5, bishop g5 was played. e d4, e d5, dc3, dc6, c takes d2. And what? What's that? You've got to take this pawn. Queen takes d2.
Taken, and I think the queen is... The black queen is already
d2.
on d2.
Yeah.
Do you think that we will see a quick draw?
Not sure, because some of those positions, I think Ruslan would really, really enjoy. I'm talking about Ponomarev, yeah. He would really, really enjoy with white. Unless I mean, this is not yet equal, I would say.
No,
like
I didn't claim that, but I
yeah.
thought that it looks like Swidler has this line analyzed until forever.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, it's of course possible that it's analyzed further, and Swidler just will show us how to make a draw here. But yeah, it's not yet equal.
For a human being, it's not that easy because of
the
this
pawn is far advanced. The bishop is okay. It controls d1, but it's somewhat aside, right? So, well.
Yeah. Also, the e7 bishop is right now a problem.
E7 is hanging. If you move possibly something like bishop b4 might be the move. After a3, for a bit I can keep this knight pinned. Yeah, so it is tricky in a way.
Yeah, it's a dynamic position still, so you need to pin this knight, and most likely that's the best move. If not, bishop takes f6 also in some positions can be ruining your structure. Also, bishop takes f3.
By the way, the queen is still not taken, so I'm wondering if he's considering bishop takes, which also is a possibility. Bishop takes, then planning to put this knight on e5. So that the bishop is hanging, and then maybe... Who knows? Knight e5. Wait a sec. In this line, by the way, I'm guessing you can lose in a couple of moves. It's like bishop c5, rook e5, and you are in trouble because bishop takes, rook h5 is hanging, and the bishop is hanging on c5. So you still have to be very careful.
b4, but it could end up badly.
You are right. No, I'm guessing bishop b4 at once is the move which is planned after knight takes. So Ponomarev with thinking, Swidler being calm.
Swidler is very relaxed. I think he's not even sitting at the board. Yeah, he's just somewhere else.
He's somewhere. That's very typical of him, either walking in the playing hall or sticking in the rest zone for the players.
I also do that when I play. I find it more comfortable this way. I don't know. I think it depends on the player whether you want to sit at the board all the time or you stand up, you walk often. For Peter Swidler, this is definitely something typical of him, that you would see him walking around or just sitting somewhere else, but not in front of his opponent when it's not his turn.
Yeah. Grzegorz Kajewski is playing.
Oh, he's playing?
Yes.
So he not just arrived, but
he's not just...
I told you I saw him on the players list, but he was not here.
Yeah, I thought he wasn't even on the players list.
He was, but I just thought that was like a trick.
Yeah, they've played 2 rounds with the same composition.
Exactly, I expected the same for every round, and now Gajewski is here.
Right.
I think now that the Polish team is leading, and they have a fifth player, so they can sometimes switch their composition. This is really an event that can become one of the best achievements for the Polish team.
Yeah, absolutely. They have very young, ambitious team led by powerful Wojtaszek. So
and Duda is also on fire.
Yeah, crossed 2700. Right. By the way, well, they are playing against Egypt, and yeah, maybe it's too early to speak of this match.
We can go to that a bit later, I think.
Yeah.
Shall we have a look at the women's section for a moment?
Right. Let's do. Here, just a second. What do we have here? India versus Ukraine, or shall we check Russia, the leaders?
Sure. Just checking that we have everything here.
Yeah, we have everything on the papers. So you tell me, or I'll see myself.
Russia, Azerbaijan, I wanted to see first.
Yeah, Lagno is playing with Lagno is playing board 1, so Alexandra Kostyniuk takes rest. So that's Lagno versus Mamedjarova on board 1.
Sometimes it's also depending on like who would be your opponent. I think that Kostyniuk and Mamedjarova have played a couple of times, and maybe it is also based on their individual score or a bad game, and sometimes these memories not allow you play your best chess. So they decided that Lagno on first board would be the best option for today, or simply Alexandra was tired of these 2 days. She played long games.
She played long games indeed, yeah. She was last to finish in round 1, her game against Zhu Wenjun, and in the second round, yeah, it was a long game for her as well. Right, I'm guessing pardon. I'm guessing what is going on here is, may I call it just improper way to play a Philidor for black? Because I'm guessing, yeah, it's clearly an attempt to play a Philidor, which would happen after knight c3, knight bd7, but the right move order considered to be this. So you pretend to play Pirc, and then after knight c3 you go e5. This ending is considered to be not very dangerous, and then white goes knight f3, and here we go Philidor. Precisely because of that, so this moves order is not right, precisely because of this line. d e5, knight takes, and then this not very typical move, queen d5, chasing the knight away basically, knight c5, bishop g5. Another awkward move has to be made, because after bishop e7, it's a free, very pleasant advantage. White takes on d6, and then it's either queen takes, after which, I'm not sure, I'm guessing knight c3 again, so white gets a development advantage, and possibly later on black will still have to take with the pawn on d6. Right, so queen d7, e d6, bishop takes, knight c3, a check, and bishop to e3. Symmetrical structure, but white is better developed, and in a way this knight on c5 might be hanging some lines. For instance, I mean, if you, for instance, take d5, knight takes, and then you have to react because bishop c5, knight c7 is threatening, or in case of bishop e6, knight c7 and bishop c5. So white is better already.
It's a theoretical line that is not that good for black.
Yeah, as far as I'm informed, it's considered to be not good for black. I mean, this way of trying to achieve a Philidor position, precisely because of this line which just happened, knight d5. That's the current position.
So Lagno knows very well the best variation, basically the refutation of this move order.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's not a big deal, but it's a pleasant advantage for white, no risk, and yeah, you just. She's a better player. I would say she's higher rated, and she has got a nice position right from the start.
Stylistically speaking, Zainab is really good at aggressive chess.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is not the kind of position where she is that dangerous.
Yeah, that's a bit puzzling. Yeah, because if Yeah, if we think where she would have the best chance, let's say, it's something very sharp, possibly with opposite castles, attacking chess, indeed. Yeah, and this is something you will have to defend carefully, more or less till the end of the game, if white doesn't make any big mistakes. Yeah, two coaches of Russian team having a chat about how all that went for them, coaches of the ladies team.
By the way, I don't know if he's still in the playing hall, but I think I have seen the manager of Sergei Karyakin.
Yeah, Kirill Zangalis is here, right.
So we have a special guest today. Every day we have a special guest, and today it's Kirill.
Right, okay. So on board 2, we have Gyunay Mamadzada from Azerbaijan against Valentina Gunina. So Gunina...
Mamadzada, who has a birthday today, so we would like to wish her a happy birthday. She has just turned 17, very young player, already on board 2 of the Azeri team. And what is the best birthday present the chess player could give herself? A victory against Valentina Gunina.
Yeah, right. What's going on here, though? Because I don't really understand. Okay, it's till that point, no surprises. It's just a Caro-Kann something. Usual castles, bishop d6, which is not the usual move, is it? I'm guessing queen c7 or bishop e7. Yeah, bishop e7 the usual play. So bishop d6, queen e2, queen to c7, knight f5, bishop f8. Isn't it something inferior?
Do you think that Gunina confused her line? Because she has played Caro-Kann her whole life, so she's an expert.
Yeah, it doesn't look like. Doesn't look like.
Or she did this on purpose to confuse her opponent.
Yeah, it might be that you're kind of confusing your opponent, in fact. Maybe white doesn't have anything better than to play knight g3 back. Yeah, and then it will turn out that, yeah, if, say, knight goes back to g3, and I'm guessing Gunina will not repeat with bishop d6, but will play bishop e7. And then, in fact, what has happened, for instance, black played bishop e7 and white played queen e2, which is, by the way, one of the possible moves, but I don't think is the main one. I mean, you can play knight e4, king b1 is one of the options. So let's say black would make a white choose one of the lines and probably not the most dangerous one. Interesting.
Gunina certainly is still in her preparation, just walking around, waiting
she
for
wouldn't
her
be
opponent.
walking, yeah, absolutely, he wouldn't be walking. And then if you try for something like this, g3 and bishop f4, I just thought, you know, to try to attack. Then after queen a5, the knight is hanging all of a sudden and the pawn on a2. So it's certainly not the clever idea to try to refute this one immediately.
It is definitely a good idea to play, even if it's something a bit dubious or rare, these kind of variations against a young player that is very well prepared but doesn't know every line in such depth.
Yeah. I'm guessing maybe knight e3 in order to put it to c4. Maybe that's what white should do. It's usually, this knight is usually a bit problematic in Caro-Kann. This is the fact that this knight is on g3, not doing all that much, and stops the g-pawn, in fact allows black in some lines to castle short, because otherwise his castle would be stormed with g4, g5. So maybe it really makes sense for white to try to move it somewhere away, so that g-pawn can be launched if black will decide to castle short. Right, then on board 3, Goryachkina is playing for Russia, and it's Gulnar Mammadova for Azerbaijan. An exchange Slav was played here. Yeah. Aha, this line. So everything, and then not quite symmetrical. Ah, this is an interesting move order. Bishop f4. Don't know why they played this way. This is certainly the position she wants, with knight still being on g1 and e2, e3 played, but why to start with bishop f4? That's the question. Anyway, this is one topical line, queen c2. So this way white avoids prevents black from developing the bishop before playing e6. So it happens this way: queen b3 attacking b7, then queen b6 is known to be somewhat inferior, or no, queen b6 simply allows to take. Yeah, you have to play knight a5, it's sorts of forced. Then after this check, what do? Queen d7 doesn't work, bishop b5. If knight goes back, then you give white a free tempo, so white played queen a4 and now he's to move again. So you have to play bishop d7 and then queen c2, covering f5 square. So bishop cannot be developed. Bishop g4 once again is probably a risky business. You make too many moves with this bishop. So e6. Up to this point, I'm guessing it's all known. Knight f3, a6, castles, queen e2, but I'm not sure of this knight h5 f5 idea. I'm not sure at all. I'm guessing some sort of b5 used to be the main move. b5
with the knight on a5,
knight,
it makes more sense.
Yeah, to put the knight on c4 eventually, because having both knights at the edge of the board is somewhat strange. And yeah, so black switches to playing some sort of a stone wall, right? But white is perfectly ready for stone wall setups, right? Controlling an e5 square, as well as in a real stone wall with white's pawn on c4, black's pawn on c6. I'd say black much more often, in case of an exchange, captures with an e-pawn. So this is the setup black wants to get in terms of a pawn structure, of course, so that to have a semi-open e-file. So this should be somewhat better for white.
What a weird position with the knights on the edge, even though it's just temporary, but
both knights will
so
return.
Strange.
Yeah, this knight e4. It's once again, it's all about the timing. I'm guessing if white will not achieve anything quickly, then black will be more or less fine. I mean, he has a clear plan. Like knight will go to f6. This I'm not even sure if it has to go to c6 or c4 in some lines. And then it's a possibility to maneuver this bishop to e8 and later on h5. So this is one of the ways to solve the issue of this passive bishop in the stone wall. And we have another Caro-Kann on board for another black game for Russia. So kind of a thematic match. Gira is known to play Caro-Kann as well. Here it's a bit different line. White, instead of playing h5, went for knight h3. Also well known. So in various lines of Caro-Kann, white tries to win a tempo attacking this bishop, right? So this, it's either by playing h5 or, as Ulvia Fatalieva did, a player for Azerbaijan, by attacking it with the knight. Bishop h7, bishop to c4, castles, rook to e1, c3, king to h8. What's king h8? Can it be that already... Wait, yeah, after c3, knight d7, knight e6 would have worked. And rook takes, yeah, and a discovered attack is threatening, and rook takes d6.
Back the piece.
Yeah, well, so that's clever, castles. And an immediate capture doesn't give anything, because bishop is protected on d6, so I just can play king h8. Yeah, but c3 is, it's a useful and as well a bit tricky move, so that to most natural reply, knight b d7, you develop the knight, and all of a sudden you are, yeah, basically you are lost after knight takes e6.
Of course, Giria, being an expert of the Caro-Kann, is aware of these kind of tricks on e6.
So king h8, then the knight will be put on d7 anyway. Well, looking at it, I'm trying to understand, is it really a good thing to have this pawn on h4 for white? I mean, since white castled short...
In this position, I would prefer it back on h2, so that I could play h3.
Ideally, yeah. To have the same position with pawn on h2, even though it might later on play a role in some kind of attacks on the king side. Yeah, an interesting position, this one. So at least, yeah, after half an hour we cannot really claim that something is clear. Maybe Lucknow has really
pleasant edge.
Pleasant position. Yeah.
And the kind of position that she can be easily superior at. So there's nothing risky in this position, and as we mentioned, Zainab, very, very similar to how her brother plays, Shahryar. She loves aggressive attacking chess, and in this position, if we can just go back for a moment to her position, this is a very solid position where white is slightly better.
Knight takes and knight t6 was played, protecting
of course, it doesn't
c7.
mean that she will lose, simply it's not the kind of position she enjoys that much.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, it gives white a very easy play, and this is precisely what you want. I think we were claiming that Lagno is a bit out of form. If we recall her games in rounds 1 and 2, because in round 1 she was clearly worse, and then in round 2 I think she was lost at some point with the white pieces against the Vietnamese player.
Probably. Yeah. Or maybe even in round 1. So all those games were in complex positions.
Yeah,
and
right.
It's
I mean,
unlikely that
here,
this position
you castle long, you develop the bishop to c4, you play rook he1. The position plays itself, they say. Yeah, there is no guarantee you will win, but it's hard to imagine you losing this one. So that's something relieving for Katerina Lagno. Yeah, I think... well, we'll check the other matches. I think Georgia already crushes Egypt on board 4. Salome Melia has what seems to be already a winning position after only 10 moves against Ehab Tashnim. How could this happen? Knight a3, bishop to c4, bishop e3, and then perhaps not the right moment to capture on d4.
Oh.
Yeah, because in many occasions you think, I don't know if it happened to you, Anna, but when you analyze at the board and you think black's going to take and white's going to recapture with the pawn, then you simply takes those pawns, the c pawns out, from c, so not even making the cd4 move. So that's possibly what black thought. So c takes, then if knight takes, I'll take on g2, for instance. Yeah, if the pawn takes, I'll think what to do. But yeah, the thing is, there is an intermediate on f7. Very, very painful. After this, white can take, and the bishop is still untouchable, of course. So bishop h6, queen to b3, bishop e3. I'm guessing simple fe3, castle short, and
this position is just completely winning already after 10 moves.
Yeah, so Georgia, after making 2 draws today, they are up for a huge win, I'm guessing. All the other games being still in progress, of course, but also looking nice for Georgians. Well, so back to open. What do you say?
Sure.
How about?
Shall we look at the Polish match?
Well, Poland against. Whom do they play? Yeah, one
Egypt.
of the leaders. Yeah, Poland against Egypt in the open section.
If we see anything similar as...
Yeah, Wojtaszek with black again, Hesham Abdelrahman. By the way, first board of Egypt. Made 2 draws with which higher rated opponents. He made a draw against Nepomniachtchi with white, and then with black he held for a draw Ariantari. So this man has a very nice performance so far.
Yes, his rating is only 2372, but his performance is above 2500.
I'm guessing about 2600
probably, because of Nepomniachtchi's rating.
Right, and it doesn't look like he has all that bad position now, but it's only move 11, so it's a bit early to speak. Then on board 2, well, that's an interesting one. Duda against Amir Moheb. And it's a rare case when I know something about the line which was played. So it's a G3 Benoni. Yeah, precisely this move order you need to get a decent Benoni with black. You play this, and then after knight c3 you're gonna play Nimzo against knight f3. I don't know what you're gonna do, but after g3, for instance, knight f3 you play b6, and then when white plays g3, so there is
Indian or Queen's Indian.
Yeah, after g3 you can't really play Queen's Indian, but you can play c5. because G3 Benoni, as at the modern, let's say, at the current state of theory, seem to hold for black quite well. So we reach this position, which is one of the key positions here. The recent try is this bishop f5 move, or a6, a4, bishop f5, yeah. Or bishop f5 at once. Yeah, which was played a couple of occasions. But this knight d4 exists. Very interesting move, connected with the exchange sacrifice. Knight d2. Then there is this tricky move, rook b4. Attacking b2, all of a sudden rook from e8 goes in, and it's possible.
Rook lift.
Yeah, it's possible to take on b2 with the rook. Right. To which one of the moves, by the way, is b2, b3, offering the rook the exchange sacrifice. Black offers the exchange sacrifice himself.
These positions can be so dangerous when you're lacking your fianchetto bishop from g7.
And also the rook left, all of a sudden, rook left to b4. Right, so black takes on f4, takes the bishop, g takes, and then black takes the pawn. So what does black get for an exchange? One pawn plus very strong bishop, as long as there is no dark square bishop for white. The king is safe, usually, right, protected by this bishop. In many lines it can be seen later on in the game. After knight c4, b6, queen b3, bishop a6, I'm guessing it's still a theory. Rook was played to e1. Then one of the things black can do, interestingly enough, he can take here, play knight d7, and that's a very interesting pattern of exchange sacrifice with opposite colored bishops on the board, because you will find it hard to find a job for this bishop on g2. It's restricted by its own pawn. I mean, opening a center is a bit problematic. If you play e4, then you will, I mean, this dude on f4 is always in danger. It's like queen h4, possibility of bishop h6. So this has to be done with care. Right, so this is one playable position for black.
And it is the Egyptian player that decided to go for this very interesting line against
brave
Duda.
decision. Yeah, brave decision, and perhaps he's right, because say they are much lower rated.
Yes.
So statistically, saying they're kind of underdogs that they're supposed to lose, let's say, in the long run, right? So what do? You, well, kind of try to unbalance it as much as possible. So that's a good choice by
yes, here
an Egyptian
on board
player.
too as well. The rating difference is 300 points. So what you were saying is it makes sense to go for a complex position where the evaluation is not that obvious.
Yeah, right. Then on boards 3 and 4, it's something more common. It's a Sicilian on board 3. He met Abdel Nabi, perhaps the most experienced player from Egypt. I think he's one of the first Egyptian international masters. I'm not sure how old is him, but I know him quite well. I've played the tournament in Egypt back in 2003, I'm guessing, and he was already there, and he was already like, you know, a local star before those
so
young...
he's the oldest member of the Egyptian team.
Right, so a Sicilian... Somehow white went to take the bishop on c8 over there. Yeah, a6, knight to a4, b5, knight b6. So white spends some time but takes the bishop on c8. That's the current position, which should be, well, to say the obvious thing, it must be playable for both, obviously, but somehow I have a feeling that white has to be a bit more comfortable with two bishops. Particularly, I don't know what's, once again, a plan in terms of moving the pawns, what black wants here. Because d5 is always e5, right? And, well, this Trafferet French-like attack on the queen side, on the king side. e5, you're having the wrong bishop for that. e5.
There's no light square bishop.
f5, yeah,
so
and this is painful, this square. Even though this might be playable. So white has a lot of useful moves like queen to e2, rook to d1. I'm still not sure what Black's plan is going to be. And on board 4, Grzegorz Gajewski, the player we were discussing. So,
he was busy in
Yeah.
Norway supporting Vishy Anand, and it seems that after Norway chess he maybe spent some time at home and took a flight to come here, because there were a few days between the two events and he has just arrived basically.
yeah, that's interesting. We were talking of him yesterday. Today I've seen him at breakfast, but somehow I thought...
I didn't even see him.
I thought he was always there, strangely enough.
No.
Okay. Anyway, now he is playing. We can see him with the white pieces at board 4.
Oh, there's a result. I believe that's...
Something has finished.
Is that the Vietnamese player in a yellow jacket?
I don't know. You mean something has finished?
Yeah, it's in the women's
Can we
section.
Can we
Or is it
check?
Harika? Because she has a coat like this, I remember.
Harika, no, it doesn't look like. At least the broadcast says it's still in progress, her game against Ushenina. Let me check.
Is Harika black today?
Yeah.
I think it's her game.
I don't know. Or she's white. Well, let me try to find out. Vietnamese are playing.
No, she's white.
with-
It's not
yeah.
her. Somebody else has a coat like Harika.
I don't see any results just yet, so I don't know.
Didn't it look like she just folded the score sheet and left?
You know what? It's a bit mysterious. Remember we had some issues yesterday with,
There was
with
one
display
board
of
that
the games.
wasn't sending the transmission
Yeah.
correctly.
So what we have for today, we have only 3 boards in the ladies
China,
section in a
Vietnam.
match.
It is the Vietnamese player that has just left, it seems. Well, we shall know about that later on.
Yeah, we will learn about this one later on. So what do? Let's quickly, before we go for break, let's quickly check how this the
India
center
versus
court.
Belarus.
I thought to check the center court, Russia, Ukraine, but India versus Belarus, right? Okay, it's the top one. Nothing really. They are just building up the positions. I mean, it's no big thing happens. I was really keen to know what happened in Ponomarev-Swedlov, because it did look like Peter knows it much further than the position on the board. So is he still blitzing out his moves? Well, only a couple of moves played in Ponomarev-Swedlov. Bishop has taken the queen on d2. That was the position in which Ponomarev was thinking for a long time. Bishop d2, bishop to d6. The bishop was hanging here. And obviously, if Black would have taken, then rook e7 takes rook c7, and this is not the position you want against Ponomarev. Yeah, it's not the position you want against Ponomarev. Right, bishop to d6 and knight to h4, possibly heading to f5, or planning to play h3, g4, and then to take this bishop on g6. So it's still not all that easy for Peter Swedlov.
And the clock situation suggests that he is already out of the book as well, because Ponomarev used more time at the beginning. He's got 1 hour, 12 minutes, and Swidler 1 hour, 11 minutes. So both players now are thinking about the position. They certainly know still the ideas and plans, but now they need to check that they remember correctly, move by move, what's going to happen here.
Absolutely. Right, so...
What about the other boards in the Russia-Ukraine clash?
Yeah, I'll jump to board 3 just to show that nothing surprising happened just yet. So it's same gioco piano. The point of bishop g5 was that after knight g6, usually if you make a like random move like knight d2, Black is ready to play h6 and then to unpin his f6 knight, or make you take on f6. But since it's white to move, this knight h4 is a clever idea, so that h6 is not possible due to knight g6, and otherwise, so this is what happened in the game, knight h4, bishop h4, the pin is still somewhat annoying. h6, d4, bishop to a7, and already there are motifs like taking on e5 and say, taking on a5, and I don't think endgame promises you anything, but some sort of queen f3, for instance, then later planning for this transfer of a knight, not via d2, but a3, c2. So it can be something. But still, it's a usual position, right? Here, Fedoseev against Kravtsev. So this a5 was played not for nothing. ed4, cd4, rook e8, and then rook a4. An interesting way to cover d4 square, the d4 pawn.
Also, at some point, rook b4 could come, not with the a5 pawn hanging, of course. Yeah.
Now, I'm guessing, for instance, now he wants knight g5, if allowed, so that d4 is protected. He wants to chase the bishop, possibly. h7, h6, and queen to c2. Or he just tries to claim that it's a nice square for this rook on a4. I'd say it's more useful than on a1. An original play by young Russian. They are both young, in fact. Fedoseev is 22 only and already crossed 2700.
Yeah, and bronze medal at the European Championship a week ago. So the new generation of Russian players is now on the national team.
Right, and then of course board 2, where is, well, it's a paradise for a commentator. A Sicilian,
This game could decide the match. This is the
very
complex.
likely there will be an attack on the king. I mean, I don't think black is advised to castle short, at least not now. So first he has to try to create some sort of a counterplay on the queen side. Queen b7 being the last move. Queen b7 protecting b5. Ah, well, that's interesting. That might need some explanation, because much more often we would see b5 and bishop being put on b7, right? But with white pieces directed towards e6, it makes sense to have the bishop on d7 just to give this e6 pawn extra protection. So therefore bishop to d7, f3, guarding the pawn on e4. It was not possible to take it here, right? It was not possible to take it here, but later on it might become an issue, so f3 is needed anyway. Queen to c7, g4, b5, threatening b4, and after a3, what's this queen b7? Black protects the b5 pawn twice, so he can play a6, a5.
This is going to be such an interesting game.
This will be.
But we need to go on a break before we continue with this one, and we have prepared for you a review of yesterday's round with highlights from the playing hall. We'll be back shortly. Enjoy the video.
Hey everybody, here we are in the playing hall of World Team Championship in Khanty-Mансийск, Russia. And round 2 was very exciting, I have to say, a lot of interesting results. It was very tense in the open section and only 3 victories with a minimal score. Norway has overtaken Egypt. Egyptian team, though, scored their first win in this championship. It was a victory 2.5 versus 1.5 against Poland against United States of America, thanks to a victory of Radoslav Wojtaszek, a spectacular game against Samuel Shankland. China has beaten India, Bashkarana Tiban lost again, same as round 1. And there were 2 draws, Belarus versus Ukraine and Russia versus Turkey. All games were drawn and Turkish team lost a single game after 2 rounds after playing with very strong teams of Ukraine and Russia. In the ladies section, Ukraine made a draw against the reigning champions, the Chinese team, which makes China's task to win the event practically mission impossible. Russia won 3-1 versus Vietnam, even though the match was very shaky. It was a really tough time for Russian team, which is not reflected in the final score. It looks like a comfortable win for them. 4-0 was a victory for Azerbaijan versus Egypt. A draw between Georgia and Poland in a thriller match where not a single game finished in a draw. It was victory for Georgians on top 2 boards, but Poland stroked back on board 3 and 4. And the final one, United States of America lost to India thanks to Tanya Sachev's victory on the board number 2. Yeah, even though United States had their chance on board 3, but eventually the game finished in a draw and India remained victorious.
welcome back to the broadcast of the World Team Chess Championship in Khanty-Masiysk. Today is the day of big clashes, one of them being Ukraine versus Russia, and the other one in the open section is China against the United States, a match that we shall have a look at right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So the highest rated player in the whole tournament, Ding Liren, won from the top 10. So far he made 2 draws. He's, well, arguably not that successful, let's say. Today he's gonna play with Sam Shankland, so the player who lost yesterday but still has the trust of his team, the leader of United States team. Shankland playing with the white pieces. So it was a Nimzo Indian and a mixture, I would say, of 2 lines. For whites, a knight f3 castle, and then queen c2. So it could have been queen c2 castle, knight f3 as well. And after knight f3 castle, I'm guessing the usual move is e3, bishop d3. This is what they play. Anyway, so queen c2, d5. After a3, black takes c3. And in case of queen c3, again, it would have been something known. D takes c4, followed by b6, bishop to a6, winning a tempo, and a lot of theory. And bc3 is something, again, keeping it a sort of a hybrid and something at least less known to me. Let's say c5, e3, knight to c6, c takes, e takes. Yeah, and then to play for some sort of, I'm guessing it's called Botvinnik plan, like, right, when they put the bishop on d3, castle short, and then try to come up with f3, e4. Then your knight on f3 is wrongly placed. I'm guessing actually both the queen on c2 is not that great and the knight on f3. So white has to do something else. In case of bishop e2, I'm guessing black might consider c5, c4, getting strong control over e4 with rook e8 and possibly moving this bishop all the way to g6. dc5.
So that's why he took on c5.
dc5. On the other hand, it's quite logical, right? So 2 bishops for white, he's trying to open the position a little bit, even though he might get some pawn weaknesses. Queen.
Yeah, the pawn structure right now on the queen side for white is looking horrible. Right. But at the same time, as you said, for the bishop pair, you've got to open the position.
Yeah, so queen a5, and now I'm guessing white could try a4 so that the pawn cannot be captured immediately, but in this case there is bishop f5 with the tempo, attacking the queen, disturbing the queen, move. And it's really unpleasant.
Can't be taken because of queen
you can't take because of queen c3, right? You'll have to move the queen, and it gets awkward for white. Therefore, bishop d3. First taking control over the diagonal, queen c5. Now white plays a4, and after rook e8 went for bishop a3. So once again, it has to be played with precision, this one. I mean, for black, because, yeah, queen a5, the move he still did not play. I'm guessing the most natural, but then after castle, white is basically ready to play c3, c4, right? Queen b6.
Just played. And I just wanted to point out that he is down on time. Ding Liren has thought for half an hour more than Sam Shankland.
Okay. So queen b6, possibly keeping this square for a knight to fight against c3, c4. So now in case of a castle, black probably will play this. Rook b1 seems like winning a tempo, but queen had nothing to do on b6 anyways, so it's queen c7, and then, yeah, trying to get as much control as possible over the c4 square, so to make sure white will never play c3, c4, and the pawn will be somewhat weak on c3. Later on, black will probably install the knight on c4. So, and it's quite interesting, as you said, Shankland played it pretty quickly. I remember him at Olympiad, and quite a few games, he was playing very, very quickly for a long time.
And
so
very confidently.
Yeah, so probably he comes very well prepared to most of his games. Castles short and again very quickly. Ding Liren down to 45 minutes. Knight a5 indeed. So he spent a lot of time on queen b6, but since he made the decision about his plan, now he will start playing quicker.
So the question is if black is in time in building up this outpost on c4 and developing his pieces, or can white act immediately and create some kind of a dynamic position?
Yeah. So, well, it's actually I don't see how white should break through. Can knight g5 be a move?
That would be the kind of move you are looking for in this position.
Straightforward, because first I thought h6, but this loses after bishop h7.
Ooh.
All of a sudden you don't have.
You don't have
I mean, it's just mate in two, right?
That would be a huge blunder that can decide the game.
Yeah, so knight g5 in fact is a threatening move, so you will have to play g6.
But that means you are weakening the dark squares and you are lacking the dark squared bishop.
Yeah, so maybe knight g5, even though it's probably connected with some time loss, because later on it seems knight will have to go back, but it might still be a clever move to try.
I like knight g5, and I think that he will play it.
Yeah, most likely he will play it. And then looking at this one, I'm even thinking of some moves like that. It's like e4, trying to, well, it's very easy to
go dynamic immediately before black can comfortably build up a stable position.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, it's very easy to play such moves in analysis. I mean, of course, over the board, it's a tough decision to make, because after h6 you are...
Look at the d5 pawn.
Yeah.
It's a nice close-up of the pawn.
Yeah, that was a nice close-up indeed. Yeah, after h6 you are basically forced to sacrifice the material in some way. I don't know if you start with knight f7 or e5. Well, for instance, e5, so that some bishop g6 is in the air. For instance, after rook takes, I'm guessing knight f3 with a tempo, and after rook's retreat, bishop g6 might and even should work. So there are possibilities. There are possibilities in this one. It will be very interesting game indeed.
And we mentioned on the first day of the event that Sam Shankland, of course, he's a very good player, but it seems that in team competitions he's even more ambitious, and he usually stands on the podium at least as a board prize. So this is a team competition, but on every board the individual score matters as well. And Shankland usually at the Olympiads wins medal on his board. So for his individual performance, they have just won the Baku Chess Olympiad with the United States. It was Shankland and Robson from this team, plus the three big stars, Nakamura, Caruana and Wesley, so who are at the Grand Chess Tour at the moment. So they will start playing in Paris soon. That's why they are not here supporting the United States.
Right, on board 2, Yu Yangyi, the man who brought China a victory yesterday against India. Now he has the white pieces against Varujan Akobian, perhaps the most experienced member of United States team. Right, and the French defense was played here. Yeah, very complex strategic positions those French defense with closed center are. It's all about understanding, to finding the right places for your pieces. And so far it looks to me that it's black who kind of achieved more. So this bishop is indeed playing. Black already threatens knight b3. I'm guessing over here, yeah, bishop c4. He wants to play knight b3. And the idea is that on knight d2 he will put the bishop on d3. And then possibly will play c4.
Yeah, this is the dream of a French player. So if you've played a French defense and you know that your ugliest piece is the c8 bishop, suddenly this bishop on d3 is like, wow. Yeah,
for instance, over here, yeah, one might consider going c5, c4 at once, right? So that you do have a square on b3 for your knight, and knight d2 would be awkward because you lock the bishop on c1. But then white would play, I'm not sure, one of the options, let's say white would play bishop e3, on knight b3 will simply move the rook, and you do have a knight on b3, but you're kind of stuck on the queen side while white is ready to play g4 and f5. Therefore, well, this happens to be much better version if white indeed will play knight d2, so then bishop d3, then c4 after, say, well, let's pretend white wants to repeat, and black perhaps would not mind to go bishop c4, but there is as well c4, so the bishop is very active, can't be trapped that easily. There is bishop e4, Black would be very, very happy to have this position. Therefore, after bishop c4, bishop e3 was played anyway, but now knight b3 is not the only option for black. He can also go bishop b3 and then put the knight on c4. That's interesting, but I'm a bit worried about those f5 ideas sooner or later. Yeah, now
that's
it's black.
The only thing that black should be worried about, that suddenly his king on e8 will be vulnerable. If not, all these maneuvers on the queen side are really nice.
Right, we had one French defense yesterday in Norway-Egypt match,
yes.
or it was Egyptian player with the white pieces. Yeah, when it looked very nice for black, they had a lot of space on the queen side, but all of a sudden he ran under the very strong king side attack, and it was a miniature game.
Yeah, so you shouldn't take too much time maneuvering and not caring about your king. Often you will want to make sure that it's safe enough, either on e8 or castling king side if you can, or running to the queen side,
yeah,
d7, c7, hide the king somewhere.
Yeah, the later is the most probable. I don't really think king can stay on e8 forever.
With this pawn structure, yes.
Yeah, and it does look very dangerous to castle short, at least for now, because you simply leave this king without any piece protection. Right. Then it's much more quiet on board 3 in the game between Ray Robson and VE, and I'm guessing it was Petrov. Yeah, it was Petrov indeed. This line with knight c3, very popular move, something like a decade ago, and still some elite players trying to play this one. But there's always been a question, at least to me, where's white advantage in this line? Because there were systems with opposite castles. I'm guessing over here it's not knight c6 but castle short immediately, and then queen d2, knight d7, castle long. So in this line, at least white's plan is obvious, right? Thanks to double pawns, the king is a bit safer than black's king on the king side, and white will try to march with his pawns. But what happens if black simply castles the same side as white does? Bishop e6, castles, queen to d7, and then black castles long as well. Not sure of this bishop f6 move though. Alright, for some reason he wanted to play it. Yeah, and a lot of pieces simply came off. Queen f4, h6. So black's structure gets damaged, but it's not such an important factor, it seems. At least VE is trying to prove it. Knight d4.
So they both have double pawns, but the c3, c2, b2, those pawns together stand better than the f7, f6 pawns. They are isolated. Even like this, since there's no dark squared bishop and there's not another knight which you could maneuver to attack the f6 pawn, it could be claimed that this is not that dangerous.
Yeah, look what happens. For instance here, if we would add one more piece, white's bishop somewhere around f4, and let's say black's bishop on f8 to protect h6, right? So it's very passive position for black, so he will always have to care of this h6 pawn. But as Anna correctly mentioned, there is no piece to attack h6 pawn as for now.
You wish you had another knight and you would place it on f5.
Yeah, another knight to get on f5, yeah, right.
So either a bishop or a knight, but you would need more minor pieces in order to exploit those weak pawns.
And what's interesting, black's knight is very, very stable on e5, because whenever you try f4, you give black the g4 square, so that the knight will go to g4. So that's the disadvantage of having this pawn on h5, not on h2 or h3. Right, so I'm guessing black is perfectly solid here. And
the only way I see for attacking the weak pawns is a rook h4, rook f4, rook lift.
Yeah, this is possible. It might be.
But also the h5 pawn will be in the air if you abandon the h pawn.
So he starts with b3, so now it's black to move, in fact. But what black should do here? It might be not so pleasant to. Yeah, not.
I guess he always has rook g5, so you should
when
take
the rook
care
is already
of,
on f4.
You
right?
should take care of the h5 pawn as white.
Yeah. Yeah, one still a bit not that straightforward. Let's say in some endings, for instance, you have an open e-file, and then if you are a defending side, you simply try to swap as many heavy pieces, I mean in this case rooks, as possible. Right here, there is no straight way to exchange the pieces for black, and I'm guessing black wouldn't mind to exchange his bishop for a knight, to force white somehow to exchange the bishop for a knight. But it's not that easy to achieve. I even thought of c5 immediately, it's knight b5, so can I maybe play this? So I'm kind of trying to claim that this is not such an important issue. I mean, d6 is somewhat weak, but can easily be protected with the king on c7. And then rook on e6, well, protects f6 as well. I'm not sure. Maybe I just made black's position worse compared to what it is in the game.
And the last board between Li Chao and Jeffrey Xiong?
Yeah, well, looks like Li Chao is about to get to bishop's advantage. So this is what happens, symmetrical structure. I'm guessing it was something, Queen's Gambit accepted. Well, not precisely. I mean, it started as semi-Tarrasch, and white simply played e2, e3, not entering the cd5, knight d5 lines. So e3, dc4, bishop c4. Now I'm guessing it's just a transposition to some Queen's Gambit accepted. a6, castles b5, bishop to e2, bishop b7, dc5. Shouldn't be much for white, if anything. But somehow in our game, I don't know if black played imprecise or it's really not that easy, but what we have now, knight c5, and it doesn't look all that comfortable. Well, perhaps you can still play. Can you play this? Because taking c5, I don't know how much of an advantage it is, but it is somewhat more pleasant for white.
Certainly more pleasant.
The knight is restricted, and especially bishop on b7 is stupid as for the moment. Right, so you would probably prefer either to give the one on b7, but I don't see a comfortable way. It's like rook b8 and some bishop c7s are possible. Probably you want to make bishop c8 work, and if this works, then you are threatening
your
rook
next
b8.
move is rook b8.
You are threatening rook b8.
Looks passive, but it could be the right move, especially when you see that rook b8 is such a threat. So white has to solve the problem of this hanging knight on c5, even though it's a very nice looking piece and the bishop on b6 looks nice, but those pieces can fall.
Yeah, somehow they are hanging in the air. Yeah, and I even thought of something like this: e5, so that if knight takes, I'll play f4 and bishop f3. That was my plan, but
maybe if this works tactically, but rook b8.
Yeah, but rook b8 again.
e5, he take on
and then
b6.
The knight on the
c5.
knight on c5 is hanging, so I still can't really make it work. Yeah, I'm not sure really.
The time situation is that Li Chao has an hour and 5 minutes versus 43 minutes for Jeffrey, so Jeffrey has taken his time and now he's thinking again. He should just decide quickly, not to get into time trouble.
Yeah, well, let's move 17 and then simplified position, but really, I mean, if you spend, say, 20 minutes and then you decide to take on c5, accepting a worse position.
That would be a very bad decision.
Yeah, that's a very bad decision, also in terms of a time management.
Yeah, not practical.
Right, so to check if there are any results already, not yet. So we had a couple of very quick results in rounds 1 and 2, but not today, it seems.
No, it's heating up already. This is day 3. Let's go back to the main clash of the day, Ukraine versus Russia.
And once again, to start with board 1.
Ponomarev against Swidler.
Well, interesting. They blitzed out the opening, but now they take a lot of time. Each of them. Knight h4, that's what we've seen. Rook a to d8. some little tactical tricks. So that would be black's response to knight f5, obviously. Bishop h2 followed by rook takes d2. White plays bishop c3, and then, as I said, white's potential threat was to play h3 and g4 and to get two bishops advantage, as well as to play knight f5. So Swidler decides on moving the bishop back.
Interesting.
So psychologically, I would say Ponomarev might be a bit happy about this, so that the bishop went to h5 and then was forced to go back to g4, even though, of course, the situation has changed. So what's now? h3. h3 was played, so bishop is forced seemingly all the way to c8. You know, I start to like Ponomarev's position, to be honest. Bishop will have to go to c8, and can I really take advantage of it? Some sort of g4. I'm not sure where I'm going, though. g4 expanding, and then black plays some kind of rook e8, and what do I want remains unclear. Right, might be still fine for black, but I'm guessing this is the type of position Ponomarev wants, because he's, as been said, he's not playing all that much recently, might not be in the top form, but yeah, class doesn't go anywhere, right? So if there is anything that he's very strong, it's understanding, certainly.
Which, of course, Peter Swidler is not lacking either, but his position is slightly unpleasant.
Yeah, and once again, it's not that straightforward, but I would say that Peter as well, he preferred to, you know, to solve, if there are any problems, he preferred to solve it in a tactical way, in a dynamic way. So it's not his cup of tea to defend a slightly inferior ending.
He's not sure Karyakin.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it is. Well, Karyakin is unique, absolutely. I mean, so how many positions he saved out of those?
He would have given up the faith in all those positions that he usually saves.
Well, so this might be a bit more pleasant ending for Ponomarev and Swidler, but I'm guessing there won't be ending in this game on board 2. It's simply not possible. Look at it. I mean, how can it be?
I think we have somebody to explain this match for us. We will have a press conference with the trainer of Team Ukraine.
Alexander Silipa. Ah, all right.
Добрый день, уважаемые друзья. У нас в гостях главный тренер женской сборной Украины Михаил Бродский.
Good day, dear friends. We have Mikhail Brodsky, who is the head coach of Ukrainian women team with us.
Михаил, сначала расскажите, пожалуйста, как вы и команда чувствуете себя в Ханты-Мансийске?
Mikhail, first of all, please tell us how you and your team are feeling in Khanty-Masiysk.
Ну, я в Ханты-Мансийске первый раз, в отличие от многих моих подопечных, которые участвовали во множестве соревнований, которые уже прошли в Ханты-Мансийске, начиная с Всемирной шахматной олимпиады 2010 года, может быть, еще раньше. Вот, поэтому им все знакомо. Я первый раз. Единственное, что удивило, это неожиданно теплая погода. Вот, как-то все-таки на севере ждешь более холодное, а получилось, что в Киеве даже холоднее, чем в Ханты-Мансийске.
It's my first time in Khanty-Masiysk. My students have been to Khanty-Masiysk many times, starting from Olympiad in 2010 and maybe even earlier. So they know everything, but for me that's the first time. And one thing particularly surprised me, it's the warm weather, because when you're going to north you expect somehow colder weather, but now in Kiev it's colder than here.
А белые ночи не мешают?
Do white nights somehow affect you?
Ну, как-то так получается, что крупные шахматные соревнования периодически проводятся за полярным кругом. Олимпиада 2014 года была в норвежском Тромсе. Тоже, ну, мне кажется, Ханты-Мансийск еще не Заполярье. А вот там как раз было Заполярье. Поэтому уже как-то немножко привыкли. Не то, что прям сильно, но, в общем, так уже это не удивляется.
Somehow it happens that chess tournaments are held in polar countries. For example, Norway Olympiad was held in Tromsø. Here it's not that north, but I think we are already acquainted to such things and not very surprised.
Ну, теперь давайте перейдем к партиям. У нас третий тур в процессе. Женская сборная Украины играет с командой Индии.
Let's move on to the games. The third round is underway, and Ukrainian women's team is playing against India.
Вот позиция у нас на доске Харика Драновали против Анны Ушениной. Что можете про нее сказать?
Now we have on our screens the position from Harika Dranovali against Anna Ushenina game. What can you say about it?
Ну, разыграна сицилианская защита. Один из, наверное, самых сложных вариантов, где у обоих сторон есть масса возможностей. И, конечно, самые интересные события еще впереди. То есть, в общем-то, пока еще идет такое неспешное маневрирование, которое в любой момент может перерасти в какое-то обострение. То есть белые как-то пытаются развить атаку на черного короля, а черные, в свою очередь, готовят контр-игру в центре и на ферзевом фланге. То есть пока еще все фигуры на доске почти разменено по одной пешке и по одному коню. Поэтому, конечно, самые интересные события впереди, и, возможно, они будут в обоюдном цейтноте. То есть у Ани времени чуть побольше в данный момент, но в такой позиции эти 10 минут могут исчезнуть за один ход. Поэтому неясно. Я бы оценил позицию как неясную.
Well, that is a Sicilian defense and one of the most complicated lines in this opening. Both sides have a lot of possibilities. Right now there is a stage of some maneuvering, but I think it can easily turn into some complications and sharp position. So white is attacking on the king side, while black has counter-attack ideas in the center and on the queen side. Well, right now Anna has a little bit more time, but in such a complicated position, these 10 minutes can easily vanish, and I think that both of them at some point would come to a side knot, to time trouble. So I would estimate this position as unclear.
Да, ждем интересную борьбу в этой партии. Теперь вторая доска Инна Гапоненко против Тани Сачдев.
So we're awaiting an interesting game on the first board. So let's move to board number 2, Inna Gaponenko against Tanya Sachdev.
На второй доске возникла типичная миттельшпильная позиция, так называемый еж. Вот, присутствующий здесь Сергей Шипов написал классическую книгу по этой теме. Причем, по-моему, уже второе издание вышло. И, считается, что у белых несколько лучше, потому что у них больше пространства. У черных гибкая позиция, и в любой момент они готовы, если белые зазеваются, перейти в контратаку. Опять же.
Иголки выпустить,
да? Да, еж пока иголки спрятал, но в любой момент готов распрямиться. Еще называют эту позицию сжатая пружина тоже, потому что в любой момент черные готовы нанести контрудар. Пока они стоят на 3 линиях, белые на 4, тут тоже самые интересные события впереди.
И время
не одинаково,
да.
Но тут совсем еще рано о чем-то говорить. Тут я так подозреваю, что эта позиция вот именно эта даже встречалась десятки раз, и поэтому я думаю, что соперницы пока еще, наверное, вспоминают какие-то свои анализы и подготовку, и, в общем, почему так долго, правда, непонятно, они это делают, но такое дело. Может, они чем-то друг друга уже успели удивить по ходу.
Интересно.
Well, here we have a typical middle game position, which is called hedgehog. Here at the tournament, Sergei Shipov is present, who wrote a classical book about this opening, about the structure. I think it's already a second edition of this book. White has more space, but black is always ready to counterattack. And right now, black is standing on 3 lines, but is always ready to So this hedgehog is always ready to show his strength and counterattack. We can see that they're spending time, but it's too early to say anything about this game because actually maybe this position already it's a theoretical one, so maybe it's already happened like 10 times in previous games, and it might be that both players are still trying to remember their analysis, or maybe they managed to surprise each other already here in the opening. But as I said, it's too early to say what will happen here.
Спасибо. Вот позиция на третьей доске, здесь уже больше фигур поменено.
Да столько же, на самом деле. Вот столько же. По одной пешке, и, правда, слоны разменены.
Да.
Там кони, а здесь слоны.
Структура как-то кажется более разгруженной.
Да. Ну, здесь белые, на мой взгляд, дебют разыграли достаточно слегка пассивно, скажу так. И ясно, что у черных уже нет никаких дебютных проблем. И даже какая-то легкая инициатива. То есть о перевесе черных, конечно, говорить еще рано. Позиция белых достаточно прочная. И еще ничего такого ужасного они не совершили. Слабостей, в общем-то, практически нет. Но можно уже говорить, что черных поприятнее, скажем так. Перспективы черных уже никак не хуже, и, может быть, даже немножко лучше.
Well, on the third board, we can see that also all the pieces are still in play. Just one pawn is exchanged and a pair of bishops. But I can say that white played the opening passively, and black has no problems, absolutely, and maybe a little initiative already. Well, it's too early to say that black has big advantage, but because the position of white is still firm and white has no weaknesses. However, black already has a slight edge here.
И последняя партия. Наталья Букса против Падмини Рут.
Well, board number 4, Natalia Buksa against Padmini Rut.
На мой взгляд, белых немножко поприятнее, потому что они, наверное, в их пользу был размен белопольных слонов. Вот в каждой партии получается так, что по одной фигуре разменено. В 3 предыдущих еще по одной пешке, а тут все пешки на доске. Вот. Но пешная структура немножко в пользу белых, потому что оставшийся черный слон, чернопольный, упирается в свою пешку Е5. А белый слон более активен. Но у черных достаточно прочная позиция. Мне кажется, что чуть приятнее у белых, но, объективно говоря, примерно равна позиция. То есть я бы играл белыми, но то есть больше всего мне нравится из наших позиций именно на третьей доске. Ну, тут тоже, в общем, есть какие-то перспективы, как и на второй. То есть в белых партиях мы немножко давим. Ну, на первой доске просто сложнейшая борьба, и может случиться все что угодно. А на третьей у нас тоже все очень комфортно. Вот, то есть матч закончится, естественно, может как угодно, потому что...
Да, но в данный момент...
Но в данный момент, да, так. То есть как бы у нас минимальный перевес, я бы так оценил.
Здесь кони в 3 сыграли.
In my opinion, white is slightly better here because the exchange of white squared bishops benefited white here. As you can see, black squared bishop of black is just looking at his own e5 pawn. But black position is still solid, and probably objectively it's equal, but I would estimate that white is perhaps slightly better. At least I would take white to play here. But well, the position on the third board I like the best for our team. So generally we can say that in white games we are pressing, and so this game and game number 2 we have good positions, but of course match can end anyway. But right now we can say that we are standing slightly better.
Михаил, спасибо за экспресс-анализ. Может быть, у нас есть вопросы у аудитории? Да, есть вопрос, спасибо.
Well, thank you, Mikhail, for the express analysis. Maybe you have some questions, and we have some questions from the audience.
On vocal пресс-служба ЮГРАМЕГАСПОРТ. У меня два вопроса относительно состава команды. Изначально в заявке Украины присутствовали и Анна, и Мария Музычук. Почему в итоге в ханты-мансийске в команднике не участвует ни одна из сестер? И второй вопрос относительно Натальи Букса. 2 года назад она здесь стала чемпионом мира на юниорском чемпионате мира. Возможно ли, что решение включить Анну в состав также как-то на это повлияло то, что ханты-мансийск оказался для нее столь счастливым местом, так скажем?
Well, I have two questions. First one is about the sisters Muzyczuk. In the first lineup, both Anna and Maria were present in the Ukrainian team, but finally we can see that both of them are not playing. So why is it like this? And the second question is about Natalia Buksa. 2 years ago, she became junior champion here in Khanty-Masiysk. Did it anyhow influence the decision to take her in the team? That Khanty-Masiysk is maybe a lucky city for her?
Ну, давайте сначала на первый вопрос. К сожалению, я его никак не могу прокомментировать. Извините. Что касается второго, конечно, ну, то есть впрямую нет, но косвенно, конечно, такой, в общем-то, выдающийся результат, как победа в чемпионате мира среди девушек до 20 лет, конечно, он учитывается тренерским коллективом при выборе кандидатов на игру за команду, безусловно. Но это было 2 года назад, после этого утекло много воды, и у Натальи были и другие весомые результаты, которые и в итоге позволили пригласить ее в команду впереди других кандидатов. Поэтому, ну, то есть, именно что она выиграла чемпионат мира в Ханты-Мансийске, ну, скорее всего, почти никак не повлияло, или вообще никак. А то, что она выиграла чемпионат мира, конечно, повлияло, да.
Well, as for the first question about Muzyczuk sisters, unfortunately, I cannot comment. I'm sorry, but that's the way it is. And as for Natalia Buksa, of course, we took into consideration that she won such a prestigious event as Junior Championship Under 20. But it was 2 years ago, so after that she already had more results. And of course we also took them into consideration, which after all made a basis for taking her in the team. But I can say that the fact that she won the championship in Khanty-Masiysk almost didn't influence anything, but the result itself, it influenced the decision to take her to the team.
Спасибо. Если больше нет вопросов, мы заканчиваем нашу пресс-конференцию. Михаил, спасибо, удачи вам.
Спасибо.
Well, thanks a lot, Mikhail, and good luck.
Спасибо. Thank you.
We are back from the press conference with the captain of the women's team of Ukraine, and now we shall analyze the men's team. How is Ukraine doing against Russia in round 3 in Khanty-Masiysk?
Right, we've seen Ponomarev seemingly having an advantage against Swidler, well, a pleasant position, let's put it this way. And there is a huge mess in very sharp Sicilian between Nepomniachtchi and Anton Korobov. So, first thing to say, I'll have to probably recall the lesson I've been taught by Miguel in Liescas during the Olympiad. 2-in-1 questions about the position you don't understand at all. Who is better and why? Yeah, so that's a nice one. Yeah, so I was, for those who just tune in, it was a knight off with bishop g5, knight bd7, perhaps the least studied, the most flexible move, but still tons of theory here. Yeah, then that was an interesting moment. b5, a3, queen to b7, protecting b5, preparing for a6, a5. It's not about the positional subtleties. It's not about number of pawns this position. It's about who is quicker. That's the first question. Yeah. So h4, black. White launches in an attack on the king side. By the way, black king is not yet here, but it's apparently, say, the side where black will castle if he ever will. a5 doesn't look so though. g5, knight goes to h5 because it perhaps was the only only available move. You don't go to g8, right? And you don't want this file to get open, the h file. Right, so knight went to h5. After gh6, black plays g6, keeping the king side closed even at the cost of one pawn. Bishop to g5. Yep, now you're not comfortable exchanging the bishops because d6 will be hanging, right? If you take then hg5 and this far advanced passed pawn is the factor. f6, another weakening move, but it costed white 2 tempi. So now it's black who starts opening the position up. b4, a takes b4 after a long think from Jan Nepomniachtchi. I'm expecting the pawn takes. After which...
And it has been played just now by Anton Korobov, opening the a5, very logical move.
So where the knight goes? Knight
A2.
goes to a2. Isn't it scary? Or there is no such thing as scary in this position? It either works or not. Yeah.
It looks scary for both, I think, but these are the kind of players, Nepomniachtchi and Korobov, that enjoy this position. I would not enjoy it.
Look, no, I mean, I'm really scared. Knight b3, apparently knight has to take. And then queen to, it's not, queen to a file, but then there is knight b4, and those knights, they are
protecting
warding
all
the squares, yeah. And a7 is covered, so apparently queen, oh well, you can play the, put the queen on a4. I mean, this kind of position still can be very good for black, despite being 2 pawns down, because he simply is closer to attack this king.
Yeah,
now my next 2 moves will be king f7, rook b8.
I was just going to add that pawns down don't matter that much when these pawns are missing from the A, B files. So
yes,
that's you want to have open.
Yeah, if you have this one on A7 and the other one on B7, then you are 2 pawns down. Yeah, but not in this position. Yes, you get rid of your pawns just to have an open files against the opponent's king. So knight B3 is one of the possible tries. Can he start by playing queen A6 first? So now knight B3 is a threat. Now knight b4 would be a terrible blunder, queen a1 mate, but I'm guessing in this case
queen takes.
Queen takes apparently.
So if knight takes b3, queen takes b3,
now you have
everything
to take with
protected.
queen b3 protecting a2. And once again after king f7 I would be seriously worried with white, so this rook is getting to b8.
Well, this game could end up so badly for one of the players, but very quickly.
Yeah, that's right. And really optically, it does look like black is quicker. Black is quicker. I'm not sure if it was simply working for black, or maybe this bishop g5 and back was, you know, those 2 tempi was a bit too high of a price to pay.
Yes, the e6 and g6 squares, but on the price of time, which is so precious when you are attacking on opposite flanks.
Yeah, and in fact, yeah, this f7, f6 proves to be useful in our lines we were looking at, because king can be played to f7, giving the other rook possibility to come to a queen side. Okay, let's leave Korobov to think in this position. I do believe it's very, very promising for black.
The Russians don't seem to be that scared, but Fedoseev was looking at Peter Swidler's position, and they seem to acknowledge that Jan Nepomniachtchi is still in control.
Yeah, well, on the other hand, it can easily be that you look at this position, you understand that you do not understand anything,
and
you just look for something, something safer, not to get too worried. Right. So that was board 2. Board 3 is much calmer. Reshenko against Vidyugov. This is a chess on a high level. Everything safe and sound. Developing pieces, trading them, and potentially a draw. Can it get sharp in a way? Yeah, last black's move, bishop e6, threatens rook d2.
That's sharp.
Yeah, that's sharp. One move threat. If you take c4, queen. If you take e6, queen e6, nothing really. I don't know. Yeah, looks like black should solve all his problems with ease. It's like takes. knight c4. Can this be a bit annoying? Not sure. Yeah, actually, I mean, maybe there is nothing wrong with knight d7, but I would prefer to deal without moving my pieces backward. So this might be a bit more pleasant for white still. And yeah, interesting. 2 Joko pianos on board 3 and 4. That's the real one, the real piano. And in a game of Fedoseev against Kravtsev, it doesn't look like Joko piano. I mean, it's something quite ragged with asymmetrical structure, with pieces weirdly placed. This rook on a4. Not that it's bad. I mean, it's just an unusual placement for this rook.
It is also the pawn chain. I think if we have just looked at this middle game without knowing the opening, I don't think we would guess it.
It wouldn't be that easy to guess the opening, right? Well, and I would claim that in fact white did achieve something. So if he would be to move, then knight c4 looks very strong. Knight c4 looks very strong. So it's black to move as for now.
So with knight c4 you would put more pressure on the d6 pawn mainly. That's the idea.
So, okay, if black takes, for instance, white takes, anyway, knight c4 is pretty much on the
Yes,
agenda.
because now, even though there's no pawn on d6, the square itself is important.
Knight d6, this is what you want to do. You want to get this knight from d2 to d6. I say if black puts the rook here and protects d6, so there won't be any tactical threats immediately. Still, it looks somewhat better for white, thanks to this pawn on a5, which makes, as
grabs
I said,
a lot of space on the queen side.
grabs a lot of space, and this black's majority, 3 versus 2 on the queen side, cannot be moved so easily, right? And yeah, if I will make sure my e5 won't be hanging there, I might think of this as well. Okay, now it's knight c3, so the fact that I don't like them, so now my rook on a4 is really pointless. So yeah, but knight c4 is anyway, that's the square the knight belongs.
I've just seen the Russian captain making sure that they all have teas and coffees fresh from the mug. It's not that easy to be a captain.
Yeah. So altogether, I think it's really safe to say that this board 2 game is crucial, the sharpest one, Nepomniachtchi against Korobov, because other 3 can easily peter out to a draw. I mean, such as they'll exchange pieces, and it's quite possible, even though Fedoseev against Kravtsev also looks tense, but in a little bit different way. So what happens in this position? If everything goes your way, you get an advantage. If everything goes your way in this position
you
on board 2, if it goes the way your opponent wants to go.
Yeah, I mean that.
Right, yeah, so you can, I mean, this game can be finished like it's move number 22, and you know, if after, say, knight b3, queen a6, it works for black the way I'm thinking, then it can be finished by move 30, this game. So it's really, really tense situation. And at the moment, I'm really guessing it's Nepomniachtchi who has to be worried, even though he doesn't look like.
Yeah, if you are watching the broadcast live, make sure that you use the hashtag #UGRAChess and tell us what do you think will happen in the match between Russia and Ukraine. This is the biggest clash of the day, and none of them are their leaders, but they are true rivals. And this match, the team that loses this match could be off of the podium.
Right. Yeah, now I'm still trying to find out what he's playing. Yeah, queen a6. Yeah, I don't see a move for white after queen a6, really, because knight b3 is very serious threat. I thought queen e2 for a bit. Not that I like it all that much, but to trade the queens off at least would ensure that my king is safe. But black seemingly, after knight e2, black seemingly can play, no, queen a6, yeah, queen e2 and queen a5 this time, and then what? And then maybe bishop c4. So it's still there is a possibility that black is not winning by force, but I kind of don't trust it for Nepomniachtchi.
So you think that this bishop g5, bishop e3 is dubious?
Probably this one, yeah. Because till that point, it was very at least it looked very logical what he was doing. But now, I don't know. Maybe there wasn't any way to take care of his king. That's I'm not sure. Maybe that was already too late. But yeah, spending 2 tempi and in fact giving black the square on f7 for a king wasn't probably a good idea.
Well, he surely hopes that his shirt will help this sweater that he is sporting today. Frightening look.
Yeah, it's a spider on it, or
I'm not sure.
Like
is it a snake or a spider?
Snake or a spider.
Either way, it is scary enough.
Okay, no, well, it doesn't look like. Well, Korobov doesn't look like the guy who can be scared by any kind of a short or a sweater. Yeah, so we started to talk before the press conference. We've started to talk of China versus United States match. So shall we go back?
Yeah, let's go back to that match as well. Of course, that's the other very close match. The Olympic champion United States against the defending champions of the World Team Championship, China.
Right. So on board 1. Seemingly, Sam Shankland found the way to get something out of it.
We liked his opening choice and we thought that he had a pleasant position.
He went for knight g5
Very
indeed.
direct.
After g6, he has played c3, c4. So not e4, but c4. Yeah, so now h6 would be a terrible mistake, I'm guessing, because white simply takes e8, and he doesn't even have to go for any kind of mate, which might be possible after, say, bishop b2, queen c3. But to stop calculating this, it's enough to understand that after cd5, it's, 3 connected passed pawns in the center. No, it would have been completely lost for black. Black makes a clever thing. Queen b3 to at least to swap queens, so those weaknesses around the king won't be such an important factor. C takes. He gets queens exchanged, drives the knight away. This, well, probably also a clever thing to do, because if you take this one immediately,
you have the control of the e4
square. Can be that one day knight will be placed to e4. Right?
Yeah, like right now after h6.
Or maybe rook d1. Rook d1
also.
first to chase the knight away.
I mean, every time it's black plays h6, you jump
knight goes to
e4.
Yeah, knight to e4, then possibility to f6 or d6, much better placed on e4. So therefore h6, knight went to f3, then black takes, goes knight b6, and after bishop b4 he was more or less forced to go knight c6, because after knight c4, a5, I'm guessing this knight is only hanging there. Might be... Isn't it caught immediately like this?
Looks
very
funny.
likely. Yeah, very likely. There's still some knight e5, but it's certainly dangerous for black. I'm guessing this is better for white, this one. Bishop e1. Clearly planning for a4, a5. It looks like it's a tough
good
defense.
Chances for
Yeah.
Shankland, who might take down the highest rated player of the event, Dingley Ren, currently number 9 on the live rating list.
Well, maybe it's a bit too early about to speak about white winning this one, but he definitely has an advantage. Yeah, he definitely has an advantage here. Well, it's heating up.
And Dingley Ren didn't have any problems in his previous game, so this is the closest he ever got to being worse.
Yeah, well, previous games, not only there, but I was present in
every previous game.
Yeah, this is a Grand Prix in Moscow recently, where he won in style, and
exactly. He has had a great year also in Baku. No, but this year, yes, yeah. 2017 mainly, he has only had good tournaments.
So I wanted to say it really got heating up on board 2. Yu Yang-yi against Varujan Akobian. Remember this bishop c4 we were looking at. Bishop e3, knight went to b3, rook b1. And after h5, so some exchanges, knight b8. So the other knight is launched apparently all the way to b3. Then b3 and c4. And this is the risk you are running when you are not castling your king, so that the center might might be open, and you will have problems here. C takes d4, knight d4, bishop takes a3. This is extremely risky for black.
With the king on e8, yeah, grabbing a pawn, but I think he felt like he needed to do something, at least have a pawn up.
Yeah, well, if it will be suffering, at least there will be something to suffer for. Right, bishop a3. Now, I don't know what he's... I mean, it's clear white tries to calculate something direct, but... doesn't he want to move the rook behind? Well, because I would really want to start with this. And then black probably plays bishop c5. Yeah, we can see...
That was a funny way of brushing your hair.
Yeah. Maruzhana Kobian, and I'm not really good at reading his face, but he seems a bit worried. He's looking at
I think he's
the
nervous.
other games. Yeah, it looks like he's nervous. So, as for the position, I'm guessing rook a1 is the good move to start, and after bishop c5, I don't know, so sometimes even something like this can be possible, looking at the way how discoordinated black pieces are. Of course, as I say, it's very easy to do in analysis. It's of course much tougher to decide yourself on this one you are playing. But look, for instance, you take, it's rook d2, queen e7, and even something like this. Black cannot castle, pieces are not moving. I mean, it looks scary in a way. It might be nothing for white. This I don't know, but it looks scary. So certainly the position to try to play in the most precise way. Can that be that he tries to find some sort of a direct... Can't believe it, because bishop c1 you will have to reply with a recapture.
You mean that he is not...
Yeah, I mean, like sacrificing on
moving
e6, yeah, not moving the rook at all. It's like sacrificing on e6,
That seems a bit too much, maybe.
Yeah, maybe I just got overexcited. But, yeah. Now, rook a1 is at least a move with a tempo.
Very natural move.
Rook a1, and I'm guessing bishop c5 is what you do. And then, I don't know.
So strange, and at the same time very interesting that he's thinking, because it really might mean that he doesn't want to move the rook, or he's already calculating this position after rook a1, but that's not practical.
Yeah, that's not practical. You then play rook a1. Yeah, basically, the piece of practical advice in this position, you try to make, you do not calculate the consequences of rook a1. In fact, you try to make the other move work. If it doesn't, you play rook a1, you see where your opponent places the bishop, and then you calculate the present position on the board. That's
exactly.
how it's
There's
done.
no point of calculating rook a1 and then where the bishop goes, checking all those candidate moves. Make the opponent play it and then start thinking about the rest.
Right, so on board 3, it's still rather quiet. Robson against VE. VE actually found a funny way to improve his position. b3, bishop d7, and then after a6, a4, the king simply comes to d8. But the d file is not an issue, it seems. King d8. I'm still not sure what he wants, but somehow it doesn't look all that comfortable for white. I mean, where do you put this bishop from f1? It's bound to protect the g2 pawn. So maybe white will have to play this rook lift, but then, in fact, to rook f4 you'll have king e7 as a reply. I mean, if you want. I'm still not sure of my c5 idea. Probably not very clever.
Maybe
Probably not very clever. I mean, with king on d8, yeah. Why do you need to play c5 with your king on d8?
What has just happened?
White played the move, but I don't know. A knight e2. Knight e2. So maybe, possibly, this knight is transferred there, where it can hardly be disturbed.
Yeah, that's
it will
a good
protect
square.
both h5 and g2, so that the bishop can be played out, and then maybe rook will go to e1.
So he's not going to bring the rook from the 4th rank, but decided for another way of development.
Another setup. And then on board 4, that's another interesting thing. remember knight c5, bishop c8. We thought rook b8 was a very, very serious threat, but it was ignored by Li Chao, who has played a2, a3. So pardon me, but I don't quite understand what's that. It's very simple. Bishop c7, and if bishop c5, he will take on b8 and give a check. Yeah, so this is the line I'm talking about. Takes and give a check on d8. And in case of rook a8, apparently this is why a2, a3 is played. He is ready for b4 to support the knight. Hence king e8, protecting one more time the d8 square. So once again rook b8 becomes an issue. So if you play f3, for instance, to protect this pawn, it's rook b8. No, f3 was super silly. Super silly.
It's like, can you spot the worst move in this position?
So it would be f2, f3. Yeah, just to allow this with a check. I'm guessing he can play b4 here, so that the knight will not be hanging. But then there is another benefit of having a king on e8, so that you can play knight d7 after bishop d7. Well, maybe black is marginally worse, but no big thing, in fact. I mean, maybe not worse at all. Well, the king is closer to a center. White has a bit more space, but yeah, since pieces started to come off, and potentially one day it can be a6, a5, liquidating the whole queen side, after which it's just a draw. So with careful defense, it looks Jeffrey Xiong has to be able to hold this one.
So board by board, what we are saying is that Shankland has a comfortable advantage.
Right.
Slight advantage against Ding Liren. On board 2,
it's really hard to say, because it looks promising for Yu Yang
suspicious for black.
But if it turns out to be nothing direct, then black is a pawn up, not to forget. So it can be, you know, it can be that black is doing fine. And the fact that Yu Yang is still thinking makes me think that it might be not all that easy for him.
So this is, let's say, a very complicated position where one mistake can cost you the whole game.
Yeah, and board 3 and 4 are all solid and roughly equal. So it's the top boards where this match is going to be decided. Most likely on board 2, same as Ukraine versus Russia.
Let's go back to that one, because it's such an exciting game between Nepomniachtchi and Korobov.
It's maybe not the whole match, but this game we have to check, because it's about the time for Korobov to make his decision, which he still didn't. After knight a2, he's still thinking. Ponomarev, though, transformed the position in an interesting way. I'm guessing Ponomarev might be getting somewhere. Just look what happened here. So he has taken, this is what we've seen. So he chases the bishop back. It's Ponomarev versus Swidler, match between Ukraine and Russia, board 1. Bishop goes back to c8, knight f3. Since the knight is not heading to f5, so Ponomarev decides to return it back. h6. a4, and after b4, white has taken on f6, plays a5 to stop this, to fix this pawn on a light square, and after rook f8 goes bishop c4. Interesting, those far advanced pawns, interestingly enough, black is unable to attack.
Any of those with the c8 bishop, that's only a defending piece.
Bishop is quite silly on c8, right? White perhaps is planning to support this with b2, b3, so that all the queen side will be very, very stable.
This is looking very pleasant for white. The question is if it can be more than just a tiny advantage.
Can he really go through, let's say, right? Because he will definitely get very comfortable position where he's controlling the actions. I mean, it's very pleasant, but is it really more than that? Because, you do not win the game against players like Peter Swidler by simply getting a better position and then keeping it as such. You really have to have a plan how exactly you are planning to win this one. All right, well, an interesting info. Russia and Ukraine
have won all kinds of medals at World Team Championships. Russia is the one that have won most of the gold medals at the World Championship
In the
open section, and in the women's section it's China.
Right, and Russia never won the women's section.
No.
Shall we check?
Let's check.
Ladies tournament, and if Russia has the very good chance after 2 rounds.
So the only result so far that has happened in the whole event is in the match of China-Vietnam.
Yeah, a draw on the last board. That was a very quick draw, so we are not even stopping on this one. Other 3 are still in progress, and it doesn't look like China will have an easy match, but I keep saying so.
Can we just quickly have a look at them so
Chinese,
the audience can see it?
Zhu and Jun, it's an ending which is probably more pleasant for white, but again it's a same material, and knowing that Vietnamese players are tough defenders, so it will take Zhu and Jun some energy, to say the least, to break through. I'm not sure if it will be all that easy. On board 2, it's
the current women's world champion Tang Zhongyi against Huang Tibao Tram.
Yeah, I kind of like White's position in a way that it's not easy to lose with White. I mean, if we are talking not about Vietnam winning the match, but holding the match.
So you think that their opening choices have been smart, the Vietnamese ladies?
But I'm guessing they are playing, well, I do not remember a lot, but I'm guessing 2 things that they are playing. It's either London system or this one, which is, I don't know, Zuckertort or Kolle, how do you call it? Yeah, I'm guessing it's Zuckertort, right? So later on, putting the bishop on b2. That's been their choice against Russia yesterday in one of the games.
Almost worked out for them. The team of Vietnam yesterday had chances against Russia.
Right, so with white they are very solid, and with black, you play as you can and see what happens. So that's, Lietting board 3 might have some chances though. When I've seen this rook on h8, it is disturbing. It really depends if black can castle long. If it's
looks scary.
It's scary. I mean, if it's possible according to rules, because I don't know. It's moved 23, and I'm not sure if the king was not moving.
Let's see from
Queen
the
c5
notation.
was played. Let's try to make it and
see if it hurts.
Application would not allow us if it would be not possible. No. So castle long is possible. Then we come to a conclusion that it's very, very scary. Because, or maybe just bad, because I can take a 5 and too many of them pins. So if queen takes, it's bishop d6.
Certainly.
Is that right? Yeah, bishop d6. If the pawn takes, it's rook f8, I thought. Yeah, winning 2 minor pieces for the rook. Sometimes to count material helps, because for that black has a pawn up. Well, black is a pawn up.
I'm not sure I would want to have a pawn up here.
Yeah, you're right. No, I'm just thinking, because sometimes it helps, and even in this line,
at least
knowing the fact that I'm a pawn up, and for instance this would not be all that clear, let's say. So rook is getting active. In the ending, sometimes rook can fight with 2 minor pieces.
I'm afraid that white doesn't want to trade queens.
Yeah, white wants to trade queens. Apparently he'll take with the bishop and then try to use somewhat weakened shelter of black's king. Looks very promising for Chinese. Indeed. Yeah, but anyway.
So this is the only board where actually we can claim that the Chinese player Lai Tingjie has a really nice position. This will be played for the full point, and maybe in the other games they don't have much.
Yeah. So as we said, a tough match here. Russia against Azerbaijan. Actually, Lucknow's game where I claimed that this is she's really getting somewhere. I don't know, Mamikiaro with careful defense managed to neutralize white's pressure, it seems. That's what we've seen, 96. And then Well, I'm not sure. There is a feeling like a move like knight d2 simply means that you're being too smart, because I'm still not sure what was wrong with the more direct long castle and so on. Knight d2, knight to d7, knight c4, and bishop c5. Black is just in time. So in case of a capture, he takes with d7 knight, of course. Castles, and black herself, Mamedov herself took on e3. Knight to b6, so another pair of pieces coming off. Rook to d2, c6, knight is driven away, and after knight e3, castle long. All of a sudden, it might be black who will first put the rooks on open files. Now I believe in black's position. So
yes, she somehow managed to make this look easy for black. We were worried about Zainab's position because it looked unpleasant.
Yeah, but now it looks like, what problem black might potentially have.
It just looks like you want to offer a draw.
Yeah, king c7, bishop c8 to be rock solid, and then swap on the file. So no big worries for Azerbaijan here. Then they're white on board too.
The birthday girl.
Yeah, the birthday girl against
Gunay Mamadzada, 17 years old today. I wonder if she has already had her birthday cake, or it will be after the game.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, she seemed to have a very good position here.
I told you that that's the best birthday present.
Yeah, so what they do with this g7 pawn? Because, it is hanging, and I don't know, people who watch me live know how much I value the bishop. So I would say the bishop on c5 is hanging for a knight. Knight is much worse than the bishop. But bishop f8 doesn't help because of bishop e5, and then you have to play here, and it's really bad. So perhaps f6 is needed, after which, as I said, the bishop was hanging, so I just take it, play b3, and I claim that I'm better. Bishop versus knight. Knight is somewhat restricted. It would have been another story with knight on c6, so black plays e5, puts it on d4. But as it is, it looks more pleasant for white, and I thought I'm being clever. I hope I am. Bishop d4, so I mean, you cannot take f2 really. It looks like you can't take f2. Right.
From what I can see on Gunina's face is that she is also worried about the position.
Yeah. So, 23 minutes for white and 38, if I see correctly, for Gunina.
Yeah, the time situation is still favoring Valentina Gunina, but I don't think that she likes her position.
No, it doesn't look so. So she's already third player today, whom we would claim to like to play attacking in attacking style, to be an attacking player. So once again,
to switch her seat with her opponent, just, or at least
to have
turn
an
the
initiative.
table.
Yeah, to have an initiative. That of course would be, and I can imagine Gunina considers moves like f5 in this position, not f6, even though it objectively doesn't look any good for black.
No, weakening the e5 square.
Right, so that's board 2, which might be a bit of a worry for Russia, but they seem to have very good position on board 3. Youngest member of Russian team, Alexandra Goryachkina. That's the current position here. Bishop h4, seemingly forcing black to play queen f7, because g5 looks it was just played. I wanted to say that it looks too much. But it was just played. I'm a bit puzzled with bishop h4, because I thought g5 was good enough, but apparently not. Black takes, and this happens to be only one check, right? King is running away to e7. Okay, so bishop h4. And then in case of queen f7, perhaps g5 would have been played, so that now you are not in time to run away. Hence g5 from black. So this will make sure white will get some open files here, even though it might be not that easy. Some rook c7s if needed. So for instance, let's try to be straightforward. Takes, no, no intermediates, right? So H has to take, rook to F1, or what should I do?
I like rook f1.
Rook F1, move with the tempo. That's we always like those moves. Queen G7, and then maybe I take. Maybe I take, because it's a little bit awkward. Any capture has its disadvantages. So King F8 will run into some check. Not sure if now or... Yeah, bishop takes maybe. Bishop G3, and then some bishop G6. Well, it's solid for black. It's still better. His king is still weaker, but I don't see white immediately breaking through.
Yeah, g5, brave move. It might lead to at least the trade of pieces, and that would favor black because she doesn't want to get mated.
Yeah, that's clear. And well, and a game on board 4, Olga Kiria for Russia against well, Fatalieva, Ulvia Fatalieva. Actually, I don't remember if she played in Baku Olympiad. She might be a new. She did.
I mean, they had 3 teams, Azerbaijan.
Right. So maybe not in the main team. Yeah. So they have a very young team. So it's experienced Mamedyarova, right? And then it's a very young team and very promising team of Azerbaijan. Right. So here it got simplified a bit, and I don't see what white has to do, to be honest, because it looks like black is just a pawn up. So after this, I mean, first of all, first thing to say, I'm not forced to take. If there is something against queen d4, I can put the knight on d5. This also looks being very, very comfortable for black, right? This blockade knight, the bishop is not that threatening. But so far I don't see what's wrong with capturing d4. Because after bishop c3, the only, say, move that might be threatening, I similarly have this. And bishop f6 is not an issue at all because the queens are coming off. And yeah, it will be a question if I can win with this extra pawn, and there are chances. It's not like some rook endings, you know, it's a pawn up but you can't win. Doesn't matter what. Here, it's still possible to try.
Yeah, many pawns, and especially having 2 rooks on the board.
Yeah, so, well, good chances on board 4 for Russia. Altogether, it looks like...
Russia is dominating
besides board 2. Gunina is true to her style. She has played knight a4.
Dynamic move, and her plan is...
I don't know what her plan is, to be honest. There is no plan, there is a lot of tactic here. I assume bishop g6. Yeah, when we talk about a plan of Valentina Gunina, we mean what she has prepared as a response to a natural capture, right? f5? That's the only tactical move I see, because if you let me play bishop e5, I'll be super safe and pawn up.
Yeah, it
so
must
be
be f5. And if queen e5, she wants to play bishop
she
d6.
has bishop d6, but I'm guessing this might be better version of the same. Queen f4, pinning the queen. I don't need to protect the bishop, I just have to pin the queen, right? So queen g7.
So if bishop d6, you want to play queen takes h6, or bishop e5 simply?
Well, I don't know. I mean, this might work.
Too much.
This might work, but yeah, if I'm sure that bishop e5 works, then it's good enough. It seems. Queen takes. This is how you act against Gunina. You trade the queens, especially being a pawn up. Yeah, this looks nice.
Is there anything else that she could do after bishop
either we are
takes
missing
g7?
something, or white can take the pawn on g7. Can it be that? No, bishop has... I thought, you know, sometimes rook g8 and you lack squares for your bishop. You are threatening bishop e5. I thought it myself. I don't know, really. Yeah, f5, this,
Queen f4.
some crazy moves, e5, no. Maybe this capture, so that, no, this any kind of ending is bad. This
because
one is
of the
bad.
weak
Yeah.
squares, weak pawn on h6.
This bad, or even knight f4, that h6 going to fall. Yeah, and if h6 falls, it's not even a number of pawns which matters, but this h pawn will be a killer. Yeah, this looks worrisome for Russia, this second board. So in both matches of Russian teams, second board is problematic.
True. Shall we go back to the open section now that you mentioned board 2? It's such an exciting position between Nepomniachtchi and Korobov.
Well, something has changed here, and
We saw it after... When was the last time we checked it?
takes knight a2. That was the moment when I was looking at various sacrifices. Korobov though played d5, which is...
Yeah, you wanted to play knight b3 and queen a6. I like that suggestion. d5 on the other hand, opening the center.
Well, for some reason he wants this bishop to work like that.
Is it working
But
much?
no, I mean, so that in this line, say queen a6, queen b4, there will be. But I kind of don't really understand. No, apparently, there was some. I mean, not to forget, these are two 2,700 players playing, and they spent time on this game. They concentrate on one game, so there must have been a reason against this queen a6. It's just that I don't see it. But after d5, it looks like it changes the situation a little bit, because queen g2, attacking g6, king f7, and after rook h to g1, it turns out that you have to play this rook, and this is the least, I mean, the last move you want to make. Your rook was so nice on a8.
Exactly. How do you attack with the rook on g8?
So putting the rook on g8, yeah, the problem is that you can't really play it with the other rook because it's h7, rook g7 and bishop h6. Yeah, and then even after knight b3, I'm not forced to recapture. I can probably take g7 because I'm threatening mate in 1.
This is looking not good for Korobov, especially taking into account his time. 12 minutes left, if I see it correctly.
Left.
And he has made something weird that forced him now this rook a g8 move.
Rook a to g8, and then... Okay, I mean, what's his next move? Even if I simply take on d5, I mean, I don't quite understand.
I feel like now the position could collapse, but I mean as a white attack,
Yeah,
just crushing
it's
attack
just
because of the king on f7, the diagonal opening up for the b3 bishop. Even if you capture the bishop, then this d5 pawn.
Yeah, then in knight takes, you take, and then all of a sudden I was telling that the extra pawn is not a factor, but it doesn't look like... Knight e6. Knight takes e6. So this is either a blunder or just a killing move.
Or a brilliancy.
I mean, it shouldn't be a blunder.
It must be a brilliancy. Bishop takes e6, then e takes d5. No.
Yeah, if the bishop takes...
Yeah, you have time for
yeah,
it.
you have time for that.
You know what, I thought for a moment that the king is on c1 and then knight takes b3 is a check. But luckily not.
For that you can take on c5
True, even in that
first,
case.
and then take here, so that, I mean, this is not an extra exchange. This is not the position with an extra exchange for black. It's just a lost position, I assume. Rook d7, it finishes
Everything
immediately.
is winning. Is this the end of this game? Knight takes e6.
d5, and yeah, and if the bishop moved, it's apparently d6. You don't want to go to 8th rank. If you go back something like that, this looks terrifying.
Horrible.
Yeah, this is simply terrifying. Why didn't I take on e6, by the way? I was winning immediately. And this check and rook e7. Oof.
This is what we were saying an hour ago, that this game between Nepomniachtchi and Korobov was such a sharp position that any of them could have won it or lost it in a couple of moves. Under 30 moves, and this is move 25.
And then, look, I just realized that we didn't look at all at this line, which is a very nice line after knight g7. What a trick! He's threatening this queen g6 check, and then if g7 is captured with the rook, it's h7 with the tempo, and queen g6 is, yes, and knight g7. Can it still be that black survives somehow? No. No, here I don't believe. I don't believe really.
For the human eye, it looks like Korobov is lost. Maybe you guys at home with the engine on know that there is a defense. You can tweet us using the hashtag #UGRAChess. But to us, it appears that Nepomniachtchi is winning, and that will give the lead to Russia in this crucial match against Ukraine. Wow.
Yeah.
What a game. We thought that Black was doing better.
Yeah, after knight a2, I said like it might be finished by move 30, meaning that Black would win. Yeah. And then now it looks, it's absolutely the same, but other way around. So it might still be finished by move 30. It's still 5 moves, and those lines we were showing in 5 moves, there was nothing to talk about.
Oh, I need to have a sip of water.
Right. So does Ukraine have any chance on any other boards?
But this was their biggest chance, we thought, and Ponomarev.
Yeah, Ponomarev, but yeah, now looking at it, he did what we said. He did what we said. So b3, stabilizing, and Swidler has taken on e1, played bishop c5. And now I'm guessing, yeah, king f1 was played. And now if he plays rook e8 and swaps the rooks, he will be fine, I'm guessing, with king close to this c6 pawn. It doesn't look like being enough.
What we said before is that Ponomarev had a very pleasant position, but we thought that maybe this advantage won't be anything bigger than a tiny advantage, and Peter Swidler is such a class player that he will defend this position. Rook d6
Rook d6.
played.
He's going after this pawn. He's not planning to defend.
He wants to win.
He's not planning to defend anything.
Ponomarev
Rook c1. So for the moment, he's protecting this pawn indirectly, so that after rook c6 there is bishop d5. Hence king f1, by the way. So there won't be bishop takes f2.
Important.
Yeah. Yeah, well, king f1 you do play anyway. You want your king be closer to a center, but if you would play some other move like g4, then this tactic would work for black. Rook c6, and after rook
bishop
d5,
a7
bishop
played
f2.
by Peter Swidler.
Rook c1 and bishop to a7. Once again, he wants to take this pawn. If you play bishop e2, well, you probably should. You probably should play bishop e2. But then, with bishop being on a7, blocking this potential... no. Now, I thought of bishop e6, but you don't need this. You just go rook d5 and collect one of the pawns. I'm guessing Swidler might be winning a pawn now.
And if he wins a pawn, then he's got the pair of bishops. He has very good chance of winning the whole game. So that could be 2-0 for Russia.
Right, and well, at least now we can safely say he's certainly out of danger. So I don't see any other board where Russia risks to lose. Because Areshin-Kavitugov, now I'm guessing it's absolutely fine for black, and it always was, apparently. And on board 4, it's somewhat more pleasant ending for Fedoseev against Kravtsev. So once again, there is seemingly no chance whatsoever Russia will lose on any of the boards.
Incredible turn of events. We thought that Ruslan Ponomarev had a slightly better position. Now it seems that he's losing a pawn. Nepomniachtchi has just played a crushing move, knight takes e6.
Knight e6, so back to this one, to Nepomniachtchi. Knight e6, we don't see the move, and to remind, I'm guessing Korobov is already below 10 minutes. It was 12 minutes for him.
And probably a losing position.
No position. That's yeah, you would prefer to be with 1 minute and switch the board. Flip the board here to be with white pieces. And Nepo, his sweater works. This terrifying spider sweater.
Look at that! How quickly this changed. But this is what happens with sharp positions. It could be that Korobov was doing just fine 4 moves ago, and now he might be completely lost.
Right, I'm checking the other matches just to...
Yeah, by the way, we had a tweet about Peter Swidler. Jay is asking if there's any other world top grandmaster that spends so much time away from the board as Peter Svidler, that he's always strolling around. Do you know of any other grandmaster that walks around often?
Not really. Yeah, he's
kind
unique
of the
in a way.
trademark of Peter Svidler.
He's unique in a way.
So the Grimfeld and the strolling around, the two trademarks of Peter.
And the earring. The only grandmaster with an earring.
That is true. He's really got cool trademarks, and he turned 41 on the very first day of the World Team Championship. So just 2 days ago, it was the birthday of Peter Svidler.
Right. So, anything we didn't look at?
Wait a second.
Maybe.
Sorry that we need to stay here, but Korobov
Knight takes e6. Yeah, this has to be checked. It's certainly the move we didn't look at all.
Okay,
Knight
I'm pretty
takes
sure
e6.
that Nepomniachtchi will make a move under 10 seconds. Yeah.
Yeah,
he didn't
takes
even have
d5.
to count back.
Yeah, he takes
He
d5.
has, of course, all this calculated. So if you take on e6, it means that you calculate all these lines. You don't just sacrifice and then start thinking.
No, it looks terrible. It really does. I mean, it looks terrible for black. How about this one? Knight c5, so that takes. We had this. We had precisely the same position when I was taking with the bishop. Remember, I was playing it to f5, so this time it's on d7. Check, so bishop e6 will lead to the same. King f8. I'm guessing simple rook e1. This I'm less sure a bit, but again, it does look terrible.
That was a result in the Poland-Egypt match, but I think this game is just so exciting that we should stay here. Look at his face! Did you see that? And he was like...
Okay. I can try to see what result that was, and so Poland, the open section, right?
Yeah.
Poland against Egypt. I don't see.
I think we should stay here. This is such a critical moment. It might be that Korobov has to resign in 2 moves.
Okay, it's a draw on both three.
We will have a look at that after we see what happened
for Poland
here.
and Egypt, it's a draw on both three. Yeah, that's really...
I think Nepomniachtchi is now more concerned about what's happening on the other boards.
On the other boards, yeah. So he...
That was a Magnus Carlsen face. Did you see that?
Yeah, but it is a bit, it is a bit dangerous for him, because I know the guy quite a bit, and he turns to sometimes, not very often, otherwise he wouldn't have this 2750 rating he has, but sometimes he turns to misplay very favorable positions and sometimes winning positions.
Because he's
kind of overconfident, or doesn't want to spend time, or simply stops too early.
So it's more for the show.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit strange to say so about such a strong player, but
I think it can happen to every player, that once you think that you are winning, you might think that if you spend 10-15 minutes in a position, it's like, what am I doing? I should be just winning on the spot, and just you blitz out your moves, and you might not make the most precise decisions.
Knight to f4 was played by Korobov. Knight e6 to f4.
Okay, he's blitzing out all these moves,
d6,
of course.
Check. Bishop to e6. So the queen is hanging. Is he winning back his piece? Well, he does. He can take. Knight takes. No, he takes on e6. To bishop e6. He takes on e6.
Force the king to e6.
Right. If the knight takes, this is completely completely lost. Yeah. So if the knight, he takes with the knight Korobov, but then it's d7, and now it's black king, which is in a terrible position, while white king is still on b1, very safe. I don't know. Yeah. What? And 4 minutes only for Anton Korobov, so he really fell apart. D takes e7 played. Oops. D e7, and
so
what
this is Pawn up, 2 pawns up. Well,
okay,
but it
I
doesn't
mean,
matter. It would be equal material or pawn down for white.
Takes.
What matters is the king position.
I'm
Open
guessing
fives
this
and
might fall. This might fall. Yeah. Well, if queens are off, then somehow it
There's
would
some
give
chance.
it would give black some chance. Yeah. But with queens on the board, it was black who was attacking some 5 moves ago, and now, yeah, queen e7 played. And yeah, and look, Jan is very serious, in fact, because this is. It's just that he had everything calculated beforehand, and now he understands it's a different position. It is a winning position, but you still have to win it.
But this is the right thing to do. So
Yeah,
this
I'm
is
guessing
this is good that he calms down a bit and just takes his time to find out the best continuation. There's no reason to rush when you are winning. So this is a position that we believe should be winning for white, although it's not winning on the spot.
Yeah, it's not, let's say, an automatic thing. So you still same advice as always here. Find it's a new position on the board, so something has happened. So you calm a bit, especially if you have time, as I believe Jan has. You find the plan for the next stage of the game, and then you look for the most precise move.
Yeah, in this very moment, he's got everything. He's got 2 extra pawns, better pieces, and it's all about the black king on f7. There's no worry about the king on b1. Imagine black had time to once again place his heavy pieces on the a file, but it's gonna take ages.
Yeah, well, the rook is not moving much.
Exactly. So first you defend the g6 pawn, and then you start moving back to the a file. It's just impossible.
No, just understood that both rooks are stuck. Queen g4, I advise to be the move. Attacking the b4 dude, and then, well, preventing.
He just takes on b4.
Knight takes b4, another little combination. If it works, then it will mean the end of the game. So if the queen takes, what happens in this case? It's a check, or what happens if queen takes?
I believe he wants to go rook d7, but
h7 maybe?
more accurate.
h7, so if rook takes, it's obvious rook d7, rook takes h7, rook g7 is the only move, and then he can give a check, take g6, and somewhere here you stop calculating because you understand that this is terribly, terribly bad.
But why king e8? Couldn't he go to f8?
f8.
Just not to allow
To
queen
f8.
g6.
But then I
check.
thought this might have been
probably
painful.
It's worse.
This and not even taking, but you know.
Okay. No.
This is terrible. I mean, when you see this position, you want back. You want to be back.
I'm afraid that there's just no good line for black here.
Yeah.
You are at the moment 3 pawns down.
3 pawns down.
And under attack.
And this knight is threatening to join, to d5.
This is really bad news
Move
for
30.
Ukraine.
Let's see if Korbov resigns. No, he will play. Of course, it's a team competition. Knowing Anton, so he's a classical player with a will for initiative. So I believe in a individual competition, he would resign because he would be disgusted with the position. But here you have to play. You have to look for those miraculous chances just in order to.
Mr. Yu Yang finishing his game against Varojan Agobian. I believe that's a victory then for China because the position was suspicious, although we didn't see a direct refutation.
Well,
so it could be a draw.
I would rather bet on a draw because it finishes too quickly. So let's see. It's either Agobian was in trouble.
The position was suspicious.
Yeah.
But we didn't know if that was a direct refutation.
It's a draw.
It's a draw. That's a good result because we were worried about Agobian's position. This French defense, they made a draw a few moves later.
What? I was
Ooh.
Some very strange. So takes here, fe6, queen to c2, attacking g6, queen e7, rook a1, draw offer.
What?
Precisely, exactly. What?
Are you sure?
I don't understand.
Are you sure the transmission of the moves was
that's
working?
What we have. That's what we have.
What's this?
I mean, it is still a huge mess, but I don't really understand why on earth you offer a draw here. Why black takes a draw being a piece up?
I'm not sure that this is the correct position. We shall have a look at it later on. For now, this is totally puzzling. I'll just write down the
like
results.
this. Bishop f7, bishop e6, whatever. A draw, and it's a draw on board 1 as well. Okay, so Ding Liren held his own. So 2 top boards are drawn.
Well, but we
match.
thought that these were the boards that would decide the match between China and the States. We thought that Shankland was having a good chance against Ding Liren, and that Yu Yangyi might find some line in this suspicious position against Jacobian. So maybe this is going to be a 2-2 between the States and China.
Yeah, okay. On board 3, it's still very, very solid, actually, for both sides. But on board 4, they found a way to complicate matters. Li Chao against Jeffrey Xiong. Somehow, yeah, black has 2 minor pieces against the rook. But there are 2 connected passed pawns, which are not going too far at the moment, but still they do represent a real threat. G4 was the last move of Jeffrey Xiong, so he's trying to get in with his pieces, trying to create a counterplay. He wants to play G3, so this pawn has to be taken, and rook C2, I'm guessing. After which I still like white with those 2 connected passers, but it might be that, you know, somehow it's not enough. Interestingly though, it can be that knight f2 is possible, and king c5, and somehow
You've just won a tempo,
he
and
will
then
be, might be in time to eliminate those pawns. I don't know. Yeah, now we will see this one because knight g4 and rook c2 is played. Yep. Any other results? Well, in fact, there are results. Fedorov-Nagy in the match of India and Belarus. It's a draw. Belarusian player was with the white pieces, so it leaves India with
sorry
the whites.
to interrupt you, but Anton Korobov
has resigned.
That's 1-0 to Russia.
1-0 to Russia.
Against Ukraine. This was a very critical game, a sharp position in the Sicilian that could have gone either way. Let's just once again go back to the moment that we found critical, and we thought that Korobov had a good chance in that position. Instead, he went for a different line.
Oof, that's the final, and the queen sacrifice at the end. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. So we thought, yeah, let's go back all the way after knight a2. This d5 break is really a terrifying move to me.
With the king on e8, you are not wanting to open the center.
Yeah, so something like queen a6 or knight takes b3, queen a6. And even an immediate king f7 would have been better than what he did, it seems. Because after d5, rook g2, queen g2 and rook g1, turns out that g6 is hanging. And when you play a move like rook a g8, it slows down your attack, first of all.
This
and
was
then
already horrible.
Knight e6 comes. Yeah, this was the position we've seen. And Nepomniachtchi finishes in style, knight takes b4, rook d7 check, and very nice calm move, simple rook d1, underlining the hopelessness of this position for black. Knight to f8, queen e2, nice move, so that when you take, it's bishop c5 winning a queen,
and after knight g3 and bishop c5
check.
Anyway.
That's nice.
Beautiful finish by Ioannis Nepomniachtchi.
Knight takes rook e7 mate.
Scoring a very important win for Russia. This might decide the match because we don't see any other promising position for the Ukrainian team. This was the critical board.
Well, even though at the Olympiad it started the same way, the match between Russia and Ukraine. Korobov had a promising position with white that time, and he lost to Nepomniachtchi. But eventually Ukraine has won 2.5, 1.5.
So this is a trick.
I don't think it's a trick, because
Very
now
painful
it's,
trick if it is a trick.
It's highly unlikely that
they don't really have any complex position that they could play for a win.
Right, I mean, Ponomarev apparently is not losing after bishop a7. He has found the way to remaneuver his knight, knight to e1.
Yeah, we just thought he might lose his pawn, not the game, of course.
Yeah, rook a1, knight d3, so he's gonna take b4, and he still might be the one who will try a bit.
He certainly has to try. There's
now
just
he has to try. He's
no
forced
question.
to. Knight d3, but how on earth he's going to try after that?
Opposite
Bishop
colored
f5.
bishops.
Yeah, bishop a6. I'll take a5.